Why don't you? Why don't you? We just start.
Oh, wait. You would just do the intro and then I'll snick out because I don't have to talk initially, do I?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's
Sorry,
that's
that was
fine.
really amateurish. Sorry,
I hit the button too early. Welcome everyone to the very first Gamergate Ultras cast here on the Soul Review. I was recently made an admin, and this possibly might not happen often, but right now what we are discussing is the use of Gamergate Chrome add-ons. There's two specific ones that's dealing with sites that have been part of a that have been put on the official Gamergate block list, and the goal of this is to show what they can do and then to discuss the efficacy of their use.
and the
So,
ethics of their use, not the efficacy, which means like are they easy to use?
yeah,
Yeah, we want to discuss the ethics of using them. Yeah,
yes, correct.
great.
And so to start out with, I guess we can introduce everyone. I will be moderating the event, and why don't let's go to Ian.
Hi, I'm Ian Davis, the creator of Gamergate Ultras, and I'm here today because I decided I wasn't initially happy with the idea of a block bot being promoted on the site. Um, However, I've realised this is a bit of an unusual call for me anyway. I did instantly when I was looking at this and thought this is an either or thing that I would talk around. Anyway, the thing is, we're going to talk about a, a system, a bot, a Chrome plugin that allows you to block most of the sites that we are effectively already blocking by the sound of it. I want to know more about this piece of equipment and see what it's going to do, and what it's capable of doing in the future. This is what I'm here to find out. I'm also seeing whether it's something that Gamergate Ultras can stand behind and have promoted on its wall. Because initially I thought this is perhaps not the way we want with Gamergate, and I censored it. I'm happy to admit, or rather, I'm I'm open to admit. Um, so I wanted to hear more, I think, and I wanted to hear more transparently from the people who posted it initially, because I'm not in any way angry with them, but I do think it's an issue procedurally, like we might be telling Gamergate to do something when we might not have the authority, certainly we don't, or to do this. I mean, we all have the kind of Gamergate chutzpah and authority to throw up ideas into the maelstrom, but is this a good one? And that's what I want to see tonight. We want to have a look at this idea and see if it's worthwhile pursuing, really. I'd like to think that I'm coming at it, despite my actions earlier today, with an open mind. So I'd like the guys who know more about it to tell me about it. And I think that's the best intro I could give, really. There,
Yep,
I'll stop.
and sounds good. And let's do Jeff next.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
You can? My levels are good?
very clear,
yes.
very level.
Great. Okay, excellent. All right, well, so yeah, first of all, I'm Jeff. As some of you know me on the Ultras forum, and I'm the one who posted this apparently controversial. It's not really a bot. It's an extension. It's a passive, extension. It doesn't change anything or interact other than if you try to go to one of these sites. And I don't see that as censorship. I see that as a self-selection, the same as changing a channel on a commercial or something of that nature. It's pretty basic. It's not actually something that's like implied that you should have to have contact with those websites. Some people see it as maybe idea exposure, but I just see it as a very technical, narrow way of slicing at their revenue. And any intellectual points that may be raised in the course of this, as a minority of those articles have offered, would be dealt with appropriately. But for most of those articles, it diverts our community and divides the community unnecessarily, basically just to keep paying attention to their what they're producing. So I recommend a ban and finding alternative channels of information for high tech and gaming and related technology news.
All right, sounds good. And finally, we have Teddy here with us as well. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Teddy. I joined the discussion on that thread in the Facebook group just because what I saw um, just kind of seemed like a miscommunication. I think people had the wrong idea of uh, of what this kind of extension is supposed to be for. Um, and it's a misconception that I saw get repeated by everybody that posted, and almost everybody that posted, that um, because I assume because they associate it with the word block, it has a very negative connotation because of the block bot. But block is not really the right word to describe it. It's a filter. It catches you when you're going to reach these sites, um, legitimately without any kind of ad block or, subversion. And it stops you because when you reach this site and you browse to it normally, um, it positively affects the website in several different ways. That's what they're built to do. They're built for people to browse to them. So just by going into a website, you're supporting it because you're serving its function. Um, but people keep saying, they think of this as us shutting our ears, plugging our ears, not wanting to hear what they have to say. And nobody said that. Nobody suggested that. The only thing that we're preventing with these kind of tools is to stop browsing to the websites. But there are dozens of tools, as Gamergate has shown, that lets us read these websites and monitor these websites and what they're doing and the changes they're making with things like Archive Today, plots, anonymizers, and ad block. We have ways to reach that information without actually browsing to the website. And the only thing these extensions are stopping is browsing to the website. No one's saying you don't have to hear what they're saying.
And so I believe you were the one to introduce an alternative plugin that is slightly different than
Right.
the original plugin. And we'll look
Correct.
at both of them here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen here, and we can just look at the both of the plugins in action. So as you can see here, this is my extensions page, and we have the first one, #Gamergate, enabled. And so if, say, we were to go to a site like Kotaku, it would come up with this. And
Yeah.
this video, and so right here, it should be Nyan Cat playing, right? Right, Jeff?
Yeah. Probably Archive Today or something hasn't picked that up, or has in itself not permissions to touch that video or something.
Yeah, or
But
for
yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, and so you can play through there, and it's a warning essentially. It's like saying you might want to use Archive Today now if you're going to go further. Posting this link. This is one of the people who are anti-GG. So it's less of a blocker and more of an alert function thing.
Right, and also you have to keep in mind that both of these extensions, you can edit the list. You can add names, and you can take them off.
Yeah.
right.
One of my questions, and I'll let Robert carry on, and I'll come back to this later. Is who's on the list? That's the question that I want to ask later. Carry on, Robert. Sorry to interrupt.
And so, well, sort of to elaborate on that, if you right click on, if you have the extension sort of activated and you right click on it, you can go to the options menu here and you can see a full list of the URLs that are blocked. Just sort of,
Yeah, you can see here it's an out-of-date list because you still see IGN and you know, we're pretty okay with IGN now, but you know, this list hasn't been updated since October.
Do we know if people can add to this list?
Not on the extension itself, but when you download it, you can add and remove names based on your own settings.
Personally?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can't contact a major hub and say, oh, this site is scum as well.
You would need to update the extension so it's defaulted when people download it. So only the creators of that extension can do it. Or if you copy this extension and then change the list.
In laymanish terms for viewers, the listeners.
Well, I mean, when people download this extension, they're downloading the version that was uploaded in October of last year. That hasn't been touched since then, so that's why the list is outdated. If you wanted the basic downloads list to change, you would have to take the code and then re-upload it with a new list, or modify it so it automatically updates based on whatever website. That's possible. That's easy to do.
This automatically puts us onto the implications of the list in the future. How could this be adapted for Twitter? No, probably not.
Not this code. You have to write something completely different for Twitter. That's a completely different beast.
So what this basically does,
it could be transferred quite easily.
Well, not transferred, but you would have to rebuild a new type of filter that works like this for Twitter, which maybe it's possible for a Chrome extension. I don't know how much.
Well, no, I was thinking something far more unilateral that would work over several social networks.
Well, that's kind of the Blockbot, but this is just filtering domain names. You know, domain names and people's personal accounts are two different things.
Yeah. Fine. Because I'm not immediately opposed to the idea. I mean, I think there is a lot of merit to be said for blocking all of the aggros and all of their sites. I think there's a lot of merit to that idea, to keep us all away from them and to create our own community. I think that might, in a way, be helpful. But equally, I fully don't. I'm a little amoral, and I don't fully understand the ethics of anything. I understand the efficacy of everything, but I don't understand the ethics. This is probably why I blocked you today, because I just couldn't work out whether it was ethical or not, because I have very little ethical ideas myself. Other people have to tell me when I'm being a shitlord.
Well, let's.
This is why I'm worried. Is it safe? Do you think it's safe for me to pimp to my members and to pimp to Gamergate in general? I mean, guys, all of you. What do all three of you think? Is it safe?
Before we go on, let's look at the other. Let's look at the other one though, because it might be that there is a way to do it that gives more transparency to the information, and like, for example, this plugin here says that it automatically redirects Gamergate or links to bad sites to archive.today versions. So if let's just look up a random Kotaku article again.
That's immensely useful. If people can, as I wonder how
Should this work
fast that
automatically?
works though. If that works pretty quickly, and I know GameGate does work pretty quickly, then that's useful when people are spreading articles around as they see them. If they already have an archive link, archive today like this, an archive today link at the top when they link that article, that is incredibly useful. I can see that, and I'm happy to promote that. The second edition is much cleverer already, I think. Yeah. Okay, you're winning me over. You're winning me over. You really are.
And so, like here, so this is also customizable, and you can also sort of see the list of URLs that are filtered by this software.
Yeah.
And it looks like it takes from the same source, only slightly more updated. If I'm
Yeah.
up to date, as well as a way to as well as a way to
At that point, you were in the Archive Today site. You can't archive today. Archive today.
yeah.
That would be whoa, wouldn't that be fun?
If
That would
you see
probably
there on that
disappear off
page,
the screen.
you see where it says Archive in blue. I think if you click on that, it'll archive the link that's in there.
Archive section.
Yeah. All right. So it's basically just an extra button to go to interact with the Archive Today site, which
Yeah, if the website hasn't already been archived, if the page hasn't already been archived, it will direct you to archive it. So I think that's an even more powerful tool because it gets more people to archive pages, because that's always a good thing. Because you always want before and afters when people make changes, or little disclosure edits, or little this or that. We want to have all the versions of these articles as long as possible, as much as possible.
all right. So now that we've sort of looked through the basic design, I think that there is a workable way to do this. But let's sort of go. Let's sort
Well,
of
we ought to move on to the ethics of it all now.
yes,
Really.
yes. This would be the point to start doing that.
Step away from. We've seen what we're looking at.
Yeah, the technical
and
points are clearly
the
established.
ethics of it. Sorry, you carry on, Jeff. You lead, mate. You lead it.
Go ahead, Jeff. You start out.
Yeah, well, the technical points have been firmly established. It's not. I wasn't promoting this out of some kind of hierarchical index. I was just promoting it out of my knowledge of this being a useful extension. So I mean that actually it's not something that I would have sought to do, yeah, without having some real experience in using it. So that's it is a more primitive extension, but for me it's not about getting to the information that I was looking for necessarily. I sometimes like to take the scenic route. So that's just as a practical matter. If I see that I'm accessing a site that I know has been blocked, that's on the list, I psychologically don't want to reward myself by still going to that same article on that same site. I'm going to see if I can Google and find an alternative site altogether to find that article or find that information reported on. I'm going to look at that source instead. So that's more of a thing to retrain myself than it has to do with the computer, offering more functionality. Of course, I could have had more functionality, and not to say that most people wouldn't probably prefer that, but I'm a little bit too stubborn to use a feature like that. I prefer to simply cut it off and say, avoid that altogether. Don't even tempt yourself, because if you go on a computer that the block isn't on, you're going to go and look for those sites. It's going to be a matter of habit. So I'm breaking
Slow
the habit.
yourself down a little, man. You're speaking very quickly, and I understand you, but I'm not sure if everyone listening will.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, all right. Well, I guess I was going a little quick there.
It's all good. I really do want to hear you, and we have all the time in the world. Absolutely do want to hear your ideas, and I really didn't hide that.
I mean, for me, it's a matter of
any sort of malice.
Right. Okay, well, I get that. I understand that's, you weren't doing it as like some kind of personal thing. I certainly wasn't posting that to be provocational towards you or the forum.
No, a good admin protects his members. And that's all I was really doing. I didn't understand the link. I didn't know if it was good for us or bad for us. So I hid it rather than removed it.
It's mostly
I
innocuous.
didn't understand what it was.
Yeah.
As long as you don't go away from here feeling that I am as incompetent as you have told people publicly I am, you know.
In general, I think you've done a pretty fair job, actually. But I felt you seriously misjudged the whole issue, and really, it wasn't something that that tech. I have good technical background. I could have easily described it
Yeah.
to you. I just don't understand why the review wasn't
Well,
taken
this,
before
this
the
is
action
one of
was
the
taken.
horrible things because there's a situation here at the moment that is nobody's fault that has interacted on this and has caused me to moderate in a different way to the one I usually would have, in that I'm banned from interacting in groups. Usually I would have moderated you and come in and ask these questions on that thread, but I'm actually not allowed to post on my own group at the moment because of a Facebook ban for well, I'm not fully sure of the reasons yet this time. I get a lot of them, as you can imagine.
Well, I mean, I sent you a note that I was unhappy with your ban myself earlier, and I feel it's, like I wonder if you're dragging me into the ban with you now. I mean, just
Well,
because
I
I posted
noticed on your wall that
controversial.
you've mentioned that you've been banned from an awful lot of libertarian groups and that kind of thing, which
Oh,
I
oh yeah,
found
no, that's
surprising.
something that I'm very open about. Yeah,
And so
I've
I did wonder a little if you were just coming in here and talking recklessly and trying to get banned. And I didn't want you to have that experience because we don't try to do that in ultras. We don't try to ban people or tone police or suppress, or even try to bugger people out of the group. I don't want it. It would have been very easy to ban you or like even set the members on you and like give you a load of grief and you'd have wandered off and it would have been no problem. I see admins do that all the time, but I absolutely did want different for the members of our group, and it is our group and the ultras because we have a lot of work to do. We have a big fight on ahead of us, and I don't want to start doing that to people. I cannot discount the idea that you've presented to me, but I did want you to hold off on presenting it so quickly until we could have a look at it and trust and verify, essentially. So we think this is a good idea.
I appreciate your intent. I still think it was premature to take it down until we could have discussed it or something. But
But I
I,
didn't take it down. I hid it, which meant that no new people joined it, but everyone in the conversation could still carry on. So I didn't really censor it or ban it in any way, shape, or form. I allowed it to continue, but not to promulgate and to affect the whole tenor of the group and the overall discussion of the group. That's what I tried to do there. And as you notice, you can still access and talk on that conversation through your notifications at the moment.
right. I mean, it's polite of you
can see
to
it progressing, so I know it's still going.
Right, I think it's very polite of you to have hidden it rather than outright deleted it. At the same time, I think it just was it struck me as odd that with people posting such a variety of different things in the forum, that why an extension. Again, if I had just arrived or something, or I had, there's no friends in the forum or any kind of connection to any kind of Gamergate history, or a negative one, I would say, suspect me more like. But
very good question I can field if you'd like.
Yeah, but I would love it.
We have been attacked often by the SJWs about the idea of boycotting, and they say to us, "Are you so friendly to gaming if you boycott gamers? If you boycott game companies?" And to an extent, we know that this is a three-way fight between the journalistic industry, the gamers. Already we know the journalists have the independent devs through the IGDA very much on their side. We ourselves are the gamers, and we're quite a powerful base in that. And certainly Gamergate as representatives of them are quite powerful because they don't forget that we do represent more people than we claim to. Now you move to the other side of the equation, the third chunk of the Triforce, and you're looking at the AAA game developers and the successful game developers in the mid-level. And these guys are professionally trained to be absolutely quiet on all these sort of controversies. And they will absolutely have to be persuaded to an extent that they need to take a side, like everyone else does, because it isn't a game of three sides anymore. It's a game of you're in or you're out, you're left or you're right. It's unfortunate and it's forced upon us by one side, and for us, of course, it's a joke. We're not neither left nor right. We all know what we are. We're not your shield and all that good stuff. We know we don't. We are not all a bunch of fascists and bigots. Nevertheless, the money is vastly involved in the third side of the AAA side of the equation and the developers, and it's getting them in at this stage. And I don't think Blockbots are going to encourage them. I think I'm going to leave what I've said there. I've run out of thinking. I shut up now for a little bit. Rob, you're the host. Jump in.
Well,
And he's wandered off and had a cigarette.
well, yes, and I think the base issue here, from what I've seen, and and people can correct me if need be, that
Come on, be
sort
brave,
of
man.
that blocking, or I'm trying to measure my words here,
Yeah, I
that
know. Stop it.
something
Stop
like
policing yourself. Talk, man. Talk. Talk from your heart, not from your ass.
well, something like that. For the thing that I didn't like about that first extension is that it completely hid the site. Like there was no way other than either editing an XML file or completely disabling it to access sites that may have been strategic in at least looking
Mm.
looking at and finding a link to archive it. Well, this and so I think that was my sort of major issue. I do agree that we shouldn't be giving these sites attention that they need not have, but at the same time, it is important to be able to access that information at the same time, which is why I wanted to bring the second plugin on to sort of show how maybe the concept could be done better in a way that didn't necessarily support the sites in question, but at the same time didn't leave us in the dark about anything.
Okay. Explain that again. No, explain that again a little bit because you were umming and ahhing there a bit. You give us that again quickly.
Essentially, the first extension was completely blocking in the sense that you couldn't necessarily get to the site itself without doing something drastic.
And you think the second extension is a little more precise and it has more user activable functions.
Yes, the UI was better, and the
The UI.
ability to automatically go to archive versions of the site was extremely useful in terms of still trying to get at the information itself.
I'm very pleased that it didn't extend to people because we know there are many people. I mean, what does this thing block? What social networks does this thing block on? Terry or
This
Jeff?
this just both of these extensions merely block domain sites. So rather
Domain
than block a social network, they just, they are used to block Polygon, they're used to block Kotaku, they're used to just block the sites themselves, not
Okay.
any given person within a social
So
network.
do absolutely support the goals of GG and our original boycotts
Yes.
of these sites. And so I can
It's
absolutely
in complete
unhide
harmony
this.
with those.
Yeah, I can completely unhide the thread now. That's fine.
I
How do you think these are going to go further? And how could we put them further? I mean,
Further in what sense?
if in a perfect world or in an amoralistic world, where would you take this to? And I'm not going to judge you on this because I'm kind of prompting you to this, and I want to know. I want to know how far we could go if we could make a horrible weapon out of this. That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean that would be kind of an unethical question. So I mean,
Yeah, it
it
is.
tempts us to break our paradigm to broach it. So I mean, I don't think if we want to do that, that we should do it on this podcast or this broadcast for one, and for two, I think we would have to seriously question if that's what I mean, if that's what something we really want to do and look at. I don't agree with that immediately.
well,
It's horrible enough a weapon as it is right now.
well, exactly. Look, as it is right now, it's perfect at doing what it's made to do. In this era of the
But
internet,
what if we could build weapons we never intended to use?
no, no, look, in this era
Okay.
of the internet, the biggest way to make money online is through ad revenue, through ad deals, through clickbait. That's why the clickbait
Yes.
industry exists,
AdSense, double click. Yeah.
because it is a way to generate money by getting people to go to a page. Now, clickbait is what all these major companies that we have a problem with, that's their source of revenue. So what this weapon does, and it is only made to do, and it does it perfectly as it is now, is prevent you from buying in to that business model, to give to that business model. It has nothing to do with blocking information, although that you can use it for that. And I'd like to defend both positions in a second. But the point of it is,
But it alerts you to information.
exactly, it's a filter. It catches it, and then you're free to do with it what you wish.
How does it do this?
Basically, all
this
it
is quite
does
clever.
is it has a list of website domains and
Yeah.
built into the browser, and if you browse to one of those domains or anything that has that domain anywhere in it, if it's a long link, and if it's anywhere
Yeah.
in it, it'll stop you and redirect you. In the first one's case, to that same splash page. In the second one's case, it'll search Archive Today for an archive version, and if it exists, it'll give you the most recent one. If it doesn't, it'll prompt you to archive it so you can see it.
I can see over the course of this election year and beyond that like blockbots and polarization on the internet are going to become very, very popular, very, very useful. Now I know they're unethical right from the start, but this is an unethical culture war. This is a civil war, and you must do what works. So I'm not throwing this idea away at all. I know it's unethical. I know it's a nasty thing. I accept that. I don't think you do, but
You're speaking to me now.
Well, some people have described archiving sites as piracy. So if you want to buy into the unethical realm of viewing sites without actually giving them the
I
traffic
don't.
they
I don't want
deserve,
to buy into that. I certainly don't.
but that's the only way I could see it as being unethical, because all you're doing is stealing these sites' content at worst, and at best, you're just preventing people from tricking you into going to these sites. Because if you have this
Exactly.
installed,
Exactly.
if you have this installed, you don't want to go to the sites on the list. That's the point of installing it. And so and clickbait is built to not let you know what site you're going to. That's why Facebook ads are built the way they are. The picture takes up 90%. The title of the article takes up 15%, and then 1% has the actual name of the website in the corner in a faded font, so you can barely fucking see it. That's the point. They don't want you to know where they're going because they know their reputations are shit. That's why it's clickbait.
Exactly. It's
And
a type of
that's what this
psychological.
saves.
It's a type of psychological pornography. Okay, it's basically just wasting
Well,
your
these are
time.
monetary funnels back to somewhere where you actually purchase something. That's the nature of SEO. You're always building
Well,
funnels, as we call
ultimately, it
them.
is. It's to track you into.
Yeah,
Are you
through a
able to hear
social
me?
network to trap you into purchasing. Well, we should come back, dear Jeff. Jeff,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can
we,
hear
yeah, we
you.
can hear you.
Yes, we can all hear
Oh,
you. Carry on.
okay. I wasn't even sure if because I was following the conversation. I was trying to get a word in edgewise. I wasn't sure if you heard.
Yeah, we could. Did we panic you? Was it a bit tough?
Okay.
Yeah. Get used to podcasting, man. Man up. Podcast up. Aye.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
There
Well,
are
as I'm not able
tricks.
to
You've
tell
got to
if the.
listen for the spaces
And
and know when to instantly jump in. You have to prepare your
Hmm.
ideas so that you can jump into any space that anyone leaves. That's the nature of podcasting.
and to sort of bring
Right.
in
Right.
sort of the YouTube chat here,
Yeah.
there Axis Fiver sort of points out that Archive Today still denies them revenue as well. So it could be seen as an act of piracy, but then again, how
I don't think
concerned
so.
should we be
That
for
that
these sites
position is
losing revenue?
anti-intellectual.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. The
something
idea
we
that
can ignore. That's purely supposition, and that's an opposite. That's an opinion argument that we can utterly
correct.
ignore in legal terms and financial terms. I want to see more of this Blockbot, to be fair. You know, it's. I know I acted very to it to begin with, because we have to get the idea out there before we can ever institute something in Gamergate. What you did was throw the Blockbot bot, this bot, at all my members without really explaining it. You can see why I panicked.
I think a big problem in that is describing it as a block bot,
Yeah.
which is not.
Right.
It's completely not, and there's
Well,
negative
it's a bot,
connotations to that.
isn't it?
It's not a
Some
bot.
people
It's not a
assume.
bot. It
Yeah.
doesn't
It's a
qualify to be a
JavaScript.
bot.
Then
Right.
it's a
It's
JavaScript.
vernacular. That's just vernacular. I mean it's an overhyped term, but
Yeah,
that's how you sell something.
that's how
Okay. And
people view it.
right.
And
Right. I
I
mean,
see that as that, and I see it as
it's
the
not
other
there.
as well.
Tech
But
speak is not
uh,
always plain, and that it means exactly what it's branded as.
yeah, so you see why it's a sudden scare in my group, right? Because I want to get my people out there engaging with other groups, commenting on stuff that they say that is ridiculous. I want them to put opposing views there, and I'm actively encouraging people to make a Gamergate breakout so that we push our ideas into wider fields. And I think that block lists like this will kettle us to an extent. I mean, some of us, some people maybe should use it, and maybe we should encourage other people to use it, but to use it ourselves seems self-defeating. Because I noticed quite early on that all the prominent SJWs didn't actually use the block bot. They love to argue. They would come out there and argue, and they wouldn't use the block bot. But all their followers would. So that they'd be encouraging their followers not to listen to any enemy opinions, and they would pinch point and fight those enemy opinions themselves, our opinions. And it
Right.
worked. It was a very clever tactic for them. So
Well,
I
sure,
wonder
sure.
how we are thinking about our own tactics here in
That
this.
that's in an engagement-centric platform like Twitter. Or I mean, this is it's a cross-platform discussion. To say from a social network to a browser to like a different social network like Facebook it's a whole different galaxy. It's a whole different ecosystem of apps, and the interactions are a little
Yeah.
styled differently. And Twitter, that's exactly the sort of place that if you want to talk shit, so to speak, want to do a little bit of
It's a
attention-seeking
great
type thing
place
that's
to
in a
push
few
false
characters.
narrative, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's exactly where you want to do something like that, and that's controlling that and showing dissent for that openly is something that's maybe practical with with a literal army of people texting on there constantly. And I mean, I'm not suggesting
Mm.
it's a uniform thing, but a
No.
virtual one in any case. I mean, it's very interesting. It very organically controls a certain narrative. It's something, you could make a popular demonstration out of, it just as it implies. It's like a trickle or a stream. But in Twitter, it's, of course, birds sing in harmony, so it's kind of an interesting metaphor. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so that's what that offers there. When we're talking about like Chrome, the browser, that's designed to simply give you access to a whole world of basically channels or options to look at,
Yeah.
and that's not the same interaction-oriented environment. The primary interaction there is you going to a certain URL and leaving traces that are useful for advertising and tracking you, and also for revenue to sell you, basically to
Mm.
sell the exposure there. That's what the primary purpose of web browsers are at this point in time. Okay, that's
Yes,
if you were
that's very
marketing a web
true.
browser, you'd say, oh well, this is a window into all these people's personal lives, and then this is a window into their wallets, or making bank on them without them even being aware of it.
Yes, but
So I mean,
yeah, but
that's you
many
have to be
people,
very careful.
but many people, my friend, have worked out how to change that with their web browsers. So many of us run things like Ghostery and Badger Privacy and all these different tools. Say in, I don't know if you have the same tools for privacy in Chrome. It's not a browser I use because it has such awful interactions with the Flash program that you use, say, on a Firefox browser. It's not worth having both of them installed. In fact, you want to keep, if you're a Firefox user, you keep Chrome as far as
Are you
away as
talking on
possible.
phones now?
Ah?
Phones? You're talking about smartphones?
No, on computers, on PCs.
Really? Well, I mean, yeah, any modern computer is going to run Chrome pretty quick. In fact, in tests of the speeds, the browsers
Well,
and loading
Chrome is
rendering
no,
pages.
yeah. Chrome is fine, but you can't run you can't
A far
dual
what?
have Chrome and Firefox at the same time. And I'm a Firefox boy, you know. Like they have flash problems that intrude in each other and
You're
pop up
breaking up here,
everywhere,
so
and it's just like getting clapped.
I'm not probably missing most of that.
Yeah.
Shoot, come.
Are you at some kind of conference or something? All these people in the background.
Pardon?
Are you at some kind of conference, Jeff,
Yeah,
or at
I could.
work, or at uni, or there's just a lot of people in the background. It's all good.
Yeah,
They sound wonderful.
it works, but
I
I
think I
yeah, go
want to
ahead.
go back to something Jeff said earlier, which I think was a good point, and I'm going to defend the first version of this extension here. He made a very good point that he wanted to be blocked from visiting these sites by accident or on purpose
Mm.
because he wanted to train himself to use these other sites that have proven to be ethical, have proven to be responsive to their readers, that have gone for stories and angles that other establishments refuse to cover. That he wanted to break his habit of going to these sites that have turned out to be
That
very
sold
anti-consumer,
him this narrative, yeah.
and he wants to train himself to use these other sites. And if maybe there are some people who have used these sites for a long time, and they're very accustomed to going to these places for their news, and now they found out about all this shit in Gamergate. They want to change. They want to try these other sites, but they have a hard time breaking the habit, or maybe they're not very computer savvy and they can't find all those scripts that hide your presence on websites and hide the ads. Then at that point, one easy Chrome plugin that you can find by searching Gamergate suddenly becomes very useful to them to help them break those habits.
I agree.
In
May I just?
Go ahead.
We will let this happen. I have changed my mind, and I will let this post sit. I cannot find the post that I've hidden actually earlier, because there's a huge pile of notifications that I've got. But if you care to repost it, then I will not interfere with it, and I will let you have whatever discussion you want with that post. And I'd love you to retract that you think that I'm an incompetent admin and useless at my job, but there we go. I can't force you to that. Are we? Have we?
I'm back on, so I could. Yeah. I'm sorry if I was absent for a bit. The call dropped. So yeah. I know. I just heard what you said, and yeah. I reject that you're incompetent. It was said out of anger, so
Thank
that was
you.
not.
God
Yeah.
bless
I'm
you.
not. No, you've been through a lot, and I've seen a lot of other admins run off a lot easier than you've put in a lot of effort and persistence into the group, and so
Well, I
I
do want
appreciate
to
that
do
even.
this properly. Yeah, I do want to do this properly, and I do want to give everyone a fair chance. And I'm really thanking you for giving me a chance to let us do this kind of thing. A bit of open government, and so we don't just reject each other's ideas. We actually have a proper good look at them as civilized people. So I'm fucking glad, and I'm totally proud of you, and I think you're a total boss for coming here and talking to us tonight. And I love you even so much for saying that you will pull back your statement that I'm an incompetent admin, because that actually did hurt me a little bit. Um, about all of it.
We both overreacted in the situation, but I think we both had good intent. There was no malicious intent on either of our parts, so we're able to resolve it amicably, which is something that some opponents won't let you do, and that's dishonorable.
I agree. I agree totally. So I'm very pleased. If we have this resolved, we can bring in other people into the conversation. And my dear friend, and we can talk about different things like Calgary and Gamergate.
Just a sec.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah.
Right,
So
what,
Rob, you know,
what were you saying? The audio
if
just
anyone
came out
from the
there.
chat wants to come in, then they should probably email or contact Rob, um, Rob Stoll at Rob Stoll Review, either on Twitter or on Facebook, and he might add you to the room and add you to the conversation.
Yeah. Would it be possible to Jeff
Probably got
if we added Yvonne to the call?
Yeah, Yvonne is lovely.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's open. If it's open session, and I don't mind sitting on for that, then yeah, if she wants to come in, bring her in.
Alright, I will post.
Yeah.
I
The
have posted her the link
subjects are
and
general Gamergate. Yeah, you can't talk about what we've just talked about. We've resolved our subject. You can't add your opinions to that. But like, come in and talk and tell us what you want to talk about. And you've got wonderful, clever Gamergate people here that you can converse with about that. That's cool.
I agree for my part.
Yeah. No, look, this will be
there
fun.
we are.
this is where we get the beers out and like all the seriousness goes, and it's all just fun.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello, who are
How's
you?
it going? I'm Yvonne.
Hello,
I've
Yvonne.
met you before.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome, Don.
Thank you.
Wow.
We are.
How do you feel about Calgary, Yvonne? The
How did I
Calgary
feel about
Expo and the
Calgary?
Honey Badgers.
I thought it was a giant mess.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
I think it could have been avoided with just maybe a conference with them or a get together instead of just plain booting them out. But that's how it went.
Yeah, and they listen to, I believe, so many reports that have actually come from online rather than from people at the actual conference. The
Hmm.
complaints that they received, and that was what I found really reprehensible. That they'd almost, yeah, we're all in the girls' group, so yeah, we'll bully these other girls, and like, who gives a fuck? No one cares. And suddenly, like, the whole internet did, and they haven't really retracted. They haven't even doubled down to an extent. They just,
The issue with Calgary was that it wasn't even necessarily, a about any specific topic. It's it's held in a location that's extremely hostile to the expo in the first place. The Stampede organization that owns the park where the convention center sits doesn't like the convention and always hires the same 6 local firms who always get the contracts and
yeah.
are absolute assholes apparently. I mean, it's the worst possible situation to hold an expo in. So I'm not sure how
Yeah,
much, specifically Gamergate or, men's rights activism this is
these
as
people were
opposed to
iffy to begin with, and they would have screwed anyone for any reason. It didn't
exactly.
even have to be political. They would have thought, yeah, we can take you a 10 grand and fuck you off, and yeah, I was stick. They stuck another picture there, didn't they? They stuck a picture cosplay against consent. Now I bet you they charged someone for that. So they made
Yeah.
some money off throwing them out, keeping their money, and sticking another poster there in the place that they beat. Wankers.
And
Wankers.
on top of that, I mean, in the past, they have not protected an artist from stealing and silenced
Yeah.
him essentially when he complained and oversold tickets without giving refunds. I mean, this is
Yeah.
it's just a bad convention. Everyone has been saying it for 10 years, and it's taken the honey
Gamergate to
badgers and Gamergate
publicise this
to,
matter.
That's
Yeah.
poaching right there.
Yeah. Like, this is very much the thing with Gamergate and the honey badgers and all this stuff. We are digging all the time. We have professional diggers. Many of the people you're talking to will be spending their daytimes in rooms quietly chucking through information online and disseminating it all together. I do some of it, but I know many, many more people who spend all week long doing this and are much cleverer at it. I mean, this is what I find when anyone insults me, I go away and I find quotes they've made 11 years ago. No one should fuck with us because we are the new journalism. We
Well,
all
if
are. You all
if
are.
one good thing came from the whole Calgary mess, it's that honey badgers got a lot more exposure. I mean, I had heard of them, and I had seen a few of their videos beforehand, but after that, I was sure to subscribe and make sure that I supported them as much as possible.
oh
Excellent.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
you
a
little treasure.
it's
Yeah.
a huge boost for anyone involved. Uh, usually events like this are um, huge publicity for any of the groups involved. That's why so many marketeers have been looking into Gamergate and studying it because honestly, it's dedicated consumers who might actually buy something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Miss. Sorry.
I'm
Right,
not
we have a huge.
comfortable.
No,
Go ahead.
after you, Miss. After you, Miss. What were you going to say?
Hmm?
Uh,
Um.
Go ahead,
Okay,
After
Jeff.
yeah.
you, Miss.
Miss, you're calling me.
Miss, the young lady. She talk. You
What?
men
Oh,
shut
what?
up. No,
Oh no,
shut
no,
up,
it's
Let's
men.
it's.
let's
Let the
let's
lady talk.
I'm
Progressive
okay. I'm
stack.
Uh-huh.
okay.
Right. Step progressive stack. Go ahead then. Yeah.
Well, no, it's all good. I've said my mind about
You've
the
said your
Calgary
piece.
mess. Mm-hmm.
so let's go
Okay.
to let's go to Jeff then.
Okay. What was the subject again?
Calgary.
Come on,
Calgary.
Jeff. Your name is Jeff.
Hmm.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Jeff. That was really rude. I don't know where that came from.
Hmm.
Jeff?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what you're calling me for. Anyway,
What would you give
The
some
Calgary
input?
issue. Yeah. The Calgary issue has been very illustrated by someone else basically said. The industry is very saturated. The condition is poor. Consumers have basically given over a lot of economic clout to industries that aren't actually very much serving their interests. You know, the games have been unimaginative lately. Um,
Mm.
they're not something. The products have been subpar in a lot of cases. So that's something that we have the ability to change as a huge market because I mean
Consumers.
we're
We
bigger than
spend the
movies.
money, don't we?
Yeah, the money goes very freely to very large corporations which aren't creating, a very dumbed down track. I mean, as far as the product, it's not that this isn't pretty; it's very pretty, but it's also very uninspired stuff, and it's very
Yes.
short. It's very costly. That's not really where games came from originally. They were like a handcraft. They're a cottage industry, and that industry created this one, but but it did that very indirectly. It's
Mm.
once the games are being hurt by their own success, basically.
Yes. Yes,
That's
that's a massively good point. They're hoist
yeah,
on their own petard, aren't they? They're
yeah,
fucked by their own success.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. That's they're in that position. The thing is, the corporations have a base that they could rely on that are going to still buy their overpriced wares, and it's very, they don't have to have the whole market supporting them. Whereas if it's a cottage
We have
industry,
seen the price of a £60 game rise to £120 with DLC and after sales purchases and that. We've
right?
seen that with Mortal Kombat X and so many other games. Yes, you're absolutely right.
No, thank you. Yeah. So
Preach
I
on.
mean, yeah, so I mean, we're it's a two-pronged, issue with the games industry itself, and then basically the parasites recently, which have attached themselves to it. I think that dynamic is pretty well established. They call themselves game journalists. I think that's a joke. The industry is attracted, jackals because it's in a bad position. It's on the way to downsizing if this keeps up because most of a lot of the gamers with more capital they're probably in their 30s, somewhere in their 40s
Yeah.
now. The ones that started in the arcade
I'd
they're in
like
their
to pick
50s
you
and
up on that
60s.
term industry downsizing. I think you're
Yeah,
very right there.
yeah,
Industry does need to know it downsizes and is looking at the people who are creating all the drama and problems to outsource. And like, fuck them people off. Everyone who comes into the industry now must understand that it's about making the game work because the profit and loss thing on games it's mirror thin. It it really is. You get it right or you get it don't. And like anything can happen. Like these feminists can come fuck you up afterwards, and so everyone is absolutely mega paranoid about games, and it'll mean fewer games are created because it's a bad bet.
right. I want to elaborate on that if you'll permit me a moment. I want to
Please.
follow up a bit. Well, the thing is, I see I see there's kind of a correction coming basically, and it's we're basically part of that. We're consumer advocates by the nature of what we're doing. We're all individualist consumer advocates. just on our own behalf mostly. So I see
Mm,
us as maybe being part of a necessary correction in this industry and trend. And I mean, without that,
most
I
us
mean,
do, my friend.
yeah, I mean, without that, there's going to be no renewal of it. So I mean, a lot of us are also developers, artists. Maybe we do lyrics or dialogue. But a lot of us are artistically and or technically inclined towards games also. So I mean, we're a competing industry. Really, the press almost kind of wants to exclude, in order to keep it to
Yes.
be more of a big boys game, where it's just a few, 6 or 7 major corporate players, and then we're
Well,
buying all
yes,
their
a small
branded,
element of the
shit.
social justice community definitely wants to intrude and destroy our efforts as a real, genuine, normal game community that accepts all. They want to mess it up and turn it into some sort of fascist empire, and it's shocking and unneeded. I'm
Sad,
sorry
isn't it?
to. Yeah, it's sad.
Well, it's just a consequence of their philosophy. They have to go eventually into each and every aspect of society because each and every aspect of society causes oppression, or is involved with people that cause oppression. So by
Right.
by by their very philosophy, everything has to be fixed. It's like any kind of cult thinking, where you have anybody that purports a very narrow worldview, and doesn't have any
It
wiggle room.
presumes the
They have
idea
to
they
go into
can
places and
fix such
change.
complication. It presumes that they can fix such complication as the human world of 20 of 2015. Look at this world. How the hell are
Right.
these socialist idiots going to fix any of that? No, they're not.
It
They're going to
reminds
make
me a
it
lot
worse.
of when I was growing up. Of course, I was raised in the church, and everything that wasn't of God was evil, and they were out to change everything, and everything had to be molded
Yes.
and shaped into the Christian point of view. And I'm seeing the exact same thing, but with the social what's the
The
right term
anti-trust
to
squad.
use? Hmm?
Yeah, this new Marxism
Mm-hmm.
being regaled as a cult or a religion to us. I
Yeah.
mean, they're
Yeah.
wandering
It's
around
it's a
saying you have
crusade.
no
It's a
choice but
religious revival and crusade.
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
You
I'm
you
just
have
gonna
you
go
ha-
away and get a cigarette. You guys talk. This is fucking fascinating.
you have to look at it like any other business, any other industry. When you talk about
Right. Right.
cults or
There's not.
religion, culture, religion, you have to look at them as just a business where people are selling ideas. They're selling words. They're selling concepts. They're selling different truths, different perspectives. And it's very hard to sell that unless you create a system where these ideas have to be taken as fact, because there's no room for wrong ideas, and there's no value in wrong ideas unless you can make them seem right. So indoctrination or propaganda or lying are just intrinsic, vital parts of any kind of religion, any kind of industry where you sell ideas.
And I would just like to add, like any major religion, at least the established ones, most of them, it's going to collect tithes on an organized basis, and that's going to be the lifeblood of the organization. It won't just be out of pocket donations, single donations. It will be the tithes that will sustain most of them. So that kind of is represented too.
And that's where the transaction of selling your ideas come in, because every single time, no matter what, no matter how it's repackaged, part of that structure of ideas they sell involves them needing people to give them money. You're not going to find a religion where giving the officials money is not involved in some way or another. And feminism is no different, as we've seen um, the onset of the professional victim. This is just another way to package. You need to give me money for this idea structure to work.
Yeah, it's very much on point. The entire system, so to say, re requires such adherence to certain individuals that it's always going to be an exploitable system for those individuals to line their pocketbooks or any, I've even seen articles where pastor ended up being able to like fondle women or something as a
Yeah,
so-called religious right
yeah.
or something like that. Like it's
Just,
more
Well,
just
well,
common.
well, no cult is really complete without a rule like that, actually.
yeah. I mean, just look at Scientology. I mean, there is documented proof that L. Ron Hubbard started it as a bet to could see who could dupe people out of their money, who could start a
Yeah.
cult and dupe people out of their money. We can go back in time and see the start of this religion, and it's a religion now. And I think that's how the start of every religion looks like. I think that's the common genesis for this type of industry, for this way of making money, is people looking for a way to make money by bullshitting people.
Yeah, I
But
agree with you
Yeah,
there.
the thing with the religion, though, is
entirely.
it's really
Entirely.
only
It's like a religion of timing people.
it's
Yeah.
really only as strong
Yeah.
as its followers.
True.
Well, they've got
And
a lot
their
of celebrity,
followers are
unfortunately, on their
incredibly
side.
weak, as
Well,
we've proved many, many times.
if you instead of saying the word followers and use the word customers,
That works too.
any industry is as strong as its customer base.
Hmm.
So it's just, of course, they have to rope in as many people as possible. Um, you have exceptions like the Jehovah's Witnesses.
I
They
differ a
actually,
little in that, like, I think we can break social justice if we break its lies. If we really fight back,
well, that's
I
that's
do
how you
think we
break
can
any.
break social justice rather than we can break something
Right.
like
Well,
Scientology.
that
I don't
requires a
think it
more.
has the strength. Carry on.
Yeah. We can't simply defensively react. I've pointed that out a number of times in a number of different mediums, most Twitter, because people there tend to want to get on a defensive cycle. They're like, oh, well, this person is attacking us, when they're going to go out and try to defend individually. And I think for coherency in the movement, it should be something that there should be a social outreach component, but a lot of that is, then cited as an example, most of which is it can be wholly seen to be fictionalized or bots or something. So a lot of it is unrepresentative, period. But of the engagement from gamergaters there is some of it which becomes on itself controversial, which uh, doesn't actually advance the overall movement, and that's something that a more dynamic approach that ultimately I think it would need to be successful would feature more of an organized, but an incentivized organized, not a suppression based message concentrating or focusing group. Like some, I've actually suggested offhand. I couldn't myself develop it, but I think there should be like a gamers pack, gamers united pack, or some kind of political. In the U.S., that's a political action committee. It's a group that's been special tax status specifically to make contributions for political purposes, and so people can donate individually and use that as leverage. And I think something like that may be needed to make sure that censorship is not legislated, and that the industry does have the opportunity to regulate itself, and that the FTC should play its proper role in governing. In basically governing the certain veracity of statements that are airing on public media. And the FEC should be doing the
Speed
same for the
yourself up, boy.
finances.
Speed yourself up. You're just gibbering. Honestly.
Was that
It is.
was that
I'm
not
sitting
coherent?
here. Look, everyone in the room, everybody who's talking in the room now, and everyone who's listening in chat, I want you to go out and pimp us. Yeah? Go out and find the share buttons at the bottom of the video and press all of them. Share everything to everywhere because we want as many people in this conversation as possible. Now, if you want to join our conversation, like go and hit Robert Stoll at the Robert Stoll at Robert Stoll at Stoll
Er,
Review on Twitter, and he will add you to the room. He will add you to the discussion, and we will have a decent discussion this evening. At the moment, it's just us talking about rubbish, and pimp us and join us. That's what I'm saying.
I think
That
2016
that
is going
that
to be interesting for at least American Gamergaters.
Yeah. And international Gamergaters. Oh, come on. Let's
Well,
face it.
right, yeah.
The English are pretty much pushing Gamergate at the moment, aren't we?
Well,
no,
it's
Yeah,
I
there's
think that
so many English
I
commentators
think you're
on
sounding for some.
Gamergate who are really pushing. You can't argue with that. There's more English than Americans pushing Gamergate. There's more international people than there are Americans pushing Gamergate. The whole
I haven't seen
world
any
is
demographic
interested in
survey. I would love
Gamergate.
to though.
yeah. I've seen all the graphics I've seen. Granted, they're months old. Actually, have the U.S. as the largest segment of Gamergate tweets.
Well, so what? Yeah, you look at the whole world in, in opposition to Gamergate, and we're in opposition to Americans in Gamergate, and we are much bigger, aren't we? You know,
But I
there are
think
more
there's some bigger
Europeans
voices.
supporting Gamergate than there are Americans.
I think
Especially
there's some bigger
fucking
voices from the UK.
yeah.
I just
No,
like
not
to
only the
see.
UK, all over Europe, all over Brazil,
Oh yeah.
yeah, or Indonesia, Korea, everywhere that loves gaming is supporting Gamergate. Yeah, let's face it, who hates Gamergate? Do they all come from San Francisco?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they're all from San Francisco, and everyone who's against like the antis, they're all from over the world. And I think that should speak volumes to people as to who's
Yeah,
going to win this.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I've always
It's sort
considered
of
San Francisco
interesting.
to be the
Go
toilet
ahead.
of U.S.
it
anyway.
is. Yes, miss, it is. San
It is.
Francisco is the toilet of America.
And I'm from Memphis, so that's saying something.
No, you got soul. Yeah.
Soul and rampaging teenagers causing riots
You've
and
got religion.
beating people
You've
up.
got religion and soul, miss. Respect you.
And it's interesting because yeah, a lot of the opposition is essentially centered around Los Angeles and also San Francisco. So
San
it's
Francisco, Portland,
Don't forget
and
Seattle.
elements of carry on.
Seattle.
Seattle too.
Yeah, miss.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize Seattle was heavy center too.
Basically, the whole major metropolitan centers on the West Coast are pretty infested with either social activist, social justice warrior type mentality, or you have something more like sometimes an intolerant hippie type mentality, where only hippie ideas should be allowed in the public sphere, sort of thing, and that doesn't sit well with there's violence in games and this sort of thing, or people can enact violence using games and whatever. That's there's that element too. So that's kind of mentality is very prevalent all over the West Coast, but it's centered in probably San Francisco, yeah.
And that's scary considering the fact that.
Sorry, miss. Karen.
I'm sorry, we tend to speak at the same time. It's all good. Just a quick one. It's scary considering that Memphis and the general area that I'm in is considered part of the Bible Belt, and I think even now they would be more, or I should say, less inclined to censor video games than people from San Francisco and that general crowd, which is to me scary.
Yeah, it's absolutely scary.
Yeah,
I feel
seeing an industry cater, just pardon my interjection, seeing an industry cater to the type of mentalities, the prominent mentalities we see among the social justice warrior set, the main cast of Anti-Gamergate is it's like looking at one of the movies out of North Korea, where they're all engaged in these mass games. If you look at the kinds of thought conformism and thought boxing in that they're doing, and the things they demand, it's really like seeing some kind of twisted like dictator show. It's really you imagine a whole industry like that, it would collapse. Of course, there's no there's no market for that kind of cult of personality or kind of just cult period in gaming.
Yeah. But
we
you
must
often
ask the
have been.
Sorry, miss.
Sorry.
Yeah, you go again.
No, it's
No,
like
we must
there's
ask
like
the
a
question.
delay or
Will
something.
this leave us in death camps in 40 years? We must ask that question.
Oh,
Like,
I think the kind of
Not if we
rhetoric
put them in
will
theirs
we all
first.
be fucked up by these social justice warriors?
I think that kind of rhetoric is sort of hyperbolic
Crazy?
in a way.
Fair
Yeah.
I've had a drink. You know.
Well, we could go a little Alex Jones here. We could all say, well, maybe they'll be in the FEMA
Well,
camps,
these
but
cunts
I
do
think that's
want
a
to
whole
kill
different
us.
podcast.
These bastards do want to
Well,
kill us.
well, that's an interesting line. It happens to be true,
They
though.
say it all
So
the
you have
time.
to. Yeah, well, no,
Individually,
I know.
they do. I wouldn't say that, like, overall they do, but individually, they are happy to round us all up, shoot us all down,
Right,
like
right. They
communists have been in the past.
Yeah, no, they definitely celebrate the destruction of any perceived limits, and you've just got to look at the cult that has that kind of streak at it, and it's got to be handled appropriately, or it will cause it'll cause devastation on its intended target.
No, that's a slippery slope fallacy. I've told you these people are out there attacking people, and you're just saying, oh, but if you don't fight them, like, something worse might happen, which is rubbish. That's a slippery slope fallacy. No offense,
Well, it may
mate,
be
but it
fallacious.
is. It's wrong thinking. It's silly thinking. It's not logical.
Can you guys hear?
Okay, well, not all fallacies
can hear you.
necessarily are. If
Sweet, thanks.
That's true. Fallacies
not all
sometimes
fallacies
are
are.
fallacies.
Yeah, but right, that's right. Sometimes they're actually validated, and in those cases, that's
Doesn't mean
it's
wrong.
academic. It's academic to point out it's a fallacy if it's true.
It
And
is.
I see
Sorry.
I see a homicidal um, tangent that is present in the opposition to Gamergate because they've stated such. I mean, when you have 7 different major outlets talking about basically death, what amounts to death to gamers, if you read through the subtext of gamers are dead, it's actually, if you were to apply that in an active, rather than just to be a dry statement, as to be an active, a verb
If you
statement.
look at the tweets of
you'd say-
Chris Clue, Geordie Tate, and
Right.
Altitude.
Jordan Tate.
Right. They have a homicidal penchant that typically expressed rhetorically, and they believe because it's considered to be commonly in jest that that's somehow acceptable socially or legally, morally.
It is hate speech.
Well, of course it is. Yeah, but it's politically correct hate speech.
Hurt other people.
Politically correct. It's funny. It's like they can throw punches, and I've seen this happen so many times. They can throw punches at us, but the moment we even wave a finger at them, they start crying. It reminds me of kids at school that would come up and punch your arm, but you push them down, and they start screaming for their mommies.
They call that punching up and punching down in feminist.
Yeah, may I jump in and just say this is called tu quoque defense, that you did it too. Like, whenever you beat the bully back, he will go and complain and say, this isn't fair, and like say, well, you hit them first, and then say, yeah, but he said something about my mother, and that's the tu quoque. And it's a defense. It's a distraction, and you should not follow it. Well done for spotting it. Sorry, carry on your conversation. I really did need to leap in there and explain that fallacy, though, just so we could just cast that aside from them. Do you understand?
Totally.
Who's speaking
So we have David in as well this chat. So why don't you go ahead, and I believe we're just on the general topic of SJW's nature, I guess would be a good summation.
Yeah. I'm just I think SJWs, like my thoughts on them, sort of thing.
Yes.
What I think about SJWs is
Yes.
I don't see it as a religion. I don't think we're fighting like a bunch of feminists or anything like that. I think like we're arguing with like their followers, like Goonie Beard men. That's what's going down. It's like nobody listens to them. The only people that listen to them are like a bunch of like white knights and stuff that want to get laid, and it's pretty pitiful. And that's all you see on Twitter. Like like all the people that you're mentioning, like really, like Chris Clue, Jordy Tate, all these guys like Arthur Chu and stuff like that. It's like it's the same story over and over again. It's like
We think you're wrong, and our diggers have proved as such, because we have proved that this goes back to a large chunk of money and investment and social change pushed by very large companies. So I think I have to disagree with you. What you're saying that it's just
What-
about that.
But even those
What
feminists are
diggers-
victims of that too. Like you mean like the Digra, the
Bigger
Digs
than
and
that. Bigger than that.
UBM,
Bigger than that. It's all being funded by like
Bill Gates.
government and the Bill Gates philanthropic fund, Bill and Martha Gates
Everybody's a victim of that.
Foundation, and many other things like the Guardian newspaper, Channel 4. We've managed to connect everything to everything to everything. There
That's
is
it. Like,
all we see all the fake award ceremonies, and we see how that is used to push their own people and their own politics into everybody's lives. We see that. We've worked out how they're doing it. We've shown how they're doing it, and it's because everybody's so invested and so loves their television and all that good stuff and believes their newspapers, and it's very, very hard to convince them.
that's why all this stuff started, because nobody's using television anymore, so they have to like inject their shit into the new media, and
They
that's all we're
come
seeing
for us
now.
because we ran away from them.
Yeah, that's it. Like they want our dollars. They want to mold us into whatever they want to mold us into. What I think is
You've
like what's
hidden
really
in
wrong.
games, so we're going to come and send the feminists after you.
It was always
And,
like
like
that.
when they've left you, you will be so monetized and so paying through the arse that you won't know. You will hate your hobby, and you will be addicts rather than gamers.
Yeah, the
You know,
only
and
thing
you
that we
will
have.
agree to
Yep,
every
I agree with
political
that.
thing we say.
Yeah. The only thing that they have in common with us is that they don't like secret societies, and we've always had secret societies. It's like, okay, like the local pub, frat houses
No,
or whatever.
they don't like men gathering in their own spaces.
Well, that's it.
They
Like,
don't like
It's been a pleasure.
politicians
I'm just going to
gathering
drop
in
the
their
stream.
own
I'll
spaces.
try and come
Secret
back.
societies is not
Hi.
about it. We're
They're-
talking
they're-
about pubs and clubs and that
that's
kind of
it.
thing.
Any kind of club,
They
they're
don't
against
like
that.
that. They don't
hate
like
that.
men
They don't.
group. They don't like men gathering together. They
Yeah,
hate
that's
men.
it. Because like we're gonna do
They
something.
hate men.
It's not just that they hate men. It's like they hate being out of the loop. You know what I mean? It's just like
No,
this
they
is where we
hate
make.
men. No, they hate men. It's a war against men. It's a
I
war
don't think-
against white man.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder
Yeah,
because
it is.
you could use a cucumber, or you could like go out of your way and make like a dragon
Oh,
dildo
come
or
on. You're
something.
talking ridiculous now. You're talking like a fool.
I don't think
You
that they hate
understand
men.
me. You know what I mean. You know that women
They
don't
hate
like.
being excluded from like what they consider like the people that are making plans. It's just like those suffragettes. That's what they did. It's just like, okay, like my rich husband is in his club and they're making decisions and I'm not part of it. and it's like they're super pissed off. I'm like, make your own club, you
But
know,
these
make
are
some
single
decisions.
women, more often lesbians.
I don't
More
know.
often people who
Just
these are
butthurt women, butthurt
feminism.
women.
This is intersectional feminism you're describing, and you've never gone and looked at it from an abstract or oppositional angle. You
There's
have to look at
nothing worse than a
intersectional
scorn of a
feminism.
woman.
Go and study them. Go and see what they say.
I do every day. I'm just like butthurt woman. I'm like, what was it, that chess thing today? The guy came out and he was just like, men will always be better at chess. He's like, oh, whoa, you know, like, let's get him, you know, and like, let's roast this
So
guy.
how can you say that they have anything to offer you as a man?
They do have things to
What?
offer me. Well, I don't want to say it on stream.
Why not?
Well,
Why
I don't
not?
know. They have
If
like a
it's
couple of
good,
things
you
I
should
like.
tell everyone.
Well,
What has feminism to offer you?
I thought you meant woman.
Feminism,
Well,
not women.
nothing really.
No, I know sex. What has feminism done for you as a man?
Nothing. I have to admit.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly. So why support them? They don't
I
like
don't.
you.
I don't support them at all. Like I don't support it.
You defend them.
I just say that they're victims. They're victims of
You
like
make
what we should be digging
excuses
into.
for them then.
I don't think I'm making excuses.
Why
for
are
them.
they victims? They're just
They're
saying
making
they're
themselves
victims.
victim.
Are they victims?
They're
You're
making
looking
themselves
after them.
That's all it is.
Yeah, that's it. They're
Yeah.
making themselves victims. Exactly.
Miss, speak up. Tell him. Tell him.
Mhm.
Tell
Well,
him.
you know, I don't really like the. Well, let me take that back. I like the concept of feminism, but I don't like the practice of feminism.
Yeah.
Because all it is saying, pay attention to me. I'm special because I have a vagina. And
Yeah.
I have a different perspective because when I grew up, I had all male friends. I had maybe one or two female friends throughout the course of my life, and the female friends I had the same perspective as I did. So we can't stand other girls because it just got too, I don't know, too weird. So
They get catty, right? You know, like when you're in a
exactly.
group and stuff, somebody shows up and it's just like, instead of just saying what you mean, like a guy would, it's just like, hey, jerk
yeah.
off. They'll be like, oh yeah, that's a nice person. Instead of saying like what you mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Maya
Right.
just preaching
you-
for me.
you
She's telling you that girls can be bitchier than men.
Yes,
Is
they can.
essentially what she's telling you.
yeah, that's it. You know, like a guy will be like, I fucking can't stand your face, so I'm gonna punch you in the face. Or it's just like a girl will be like,
And then we'd have done it that
you know,
night.
like, yeah,
And
that's
that's
it.
why
Like,
I prefer hanging out with guys more than I like hanging out with girls, because guys are upfront, they're honest, they're more blunt.
Mm.
Girls are catty and talk about you behind your back, and they won't come out and say whether or not they like you.
Some of them.
It's
Not
frustrating,
all
and
girls,
confusing.
but some of them. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're totally right, miss. You're totally right, miss. When you're a victim, and look, I'm a skinny guy who really can't punch anybody out. I have in the past because life has treated me like a skinny guy, and I've changed a bit. But here's the thing: if you feel you're a victim, all the time I felt I was a victim. Everything in life is a problem. Everything in life is something you can blame. When you don't feel you're that victim, suddenly everything in life is an opportunity.
yeah,
Exactly.
complaining about it doesn't help. You have to like dig yourself out of the shit, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You, everything in life is something you can build on, and everything works all of a sudden. All the time, when you're just looking for someone to blame for your oppression and that kind of thing, you push yourself down, you hide yourself down, and you don't get yourself out there. When you know you're oppressed, you see things like
Overcoming.
what the honey badgers did. They went to a conference that they weren't welcome at, and they knew they weren't welcome at, and things went wrong for them, and so many people jumped in because of the courage that they showed, and
Yep.
previously and on the day.
I saw this thread. I saw this thread in the chans like today, and I was like, I sort of like it sort of made me think though. I was just like, there was a lot of crying and a lot of like kind of like now,
They were fine.
on the honey badgers part. I was just like, when you go back, like like retrospect or whatever, you're like, damn, they were like all crying. They look like all
You didn't
dejected.
see
It's
a
like,
single tear from the men of the Badgers. Yeah, the ladies, the ladies may have expressed themselves, but
yeah,
like
it kind of seemed like weak to me, like
the
they should have
honey
been like
badgers are
stronger
great.
about it. Just like,
See, I don't know. Being able to express your emotions openly in front of thousands of people, I think that's strong, and that takes a lot of willpower to do that.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
am I a white knight for them now or something? Or
No, you're not.
I'm just
No, you're
asking,
not.
like, because I'm like,
I know,
like,
I know. I feel you there. I feel you there as well because I put a lot of effort into supporting that campaign. And when Alison Teeman came out and did all that crying stuff, I thought, no, shut up, this isn't helping. Shut up, stop.
yeah,
You wipe your eyes, wipe your damn eyes. You stand up, miss.
I don't like being associated with like MRAs because I find that a lot of these MRAs are just like bitching and crying just like women do. They should just like get into like a third hug box
Who
and
has
just
told
like
you that?
kissy and
I'm
hold
a
each
men's
other.
right activist, and I'm a fucking full-on game gayer guy that pushes the shit. Yeah.
I'm
The
somewhere in
groups-
between.
Stop me.
The groups align, but there is a
Sorry,
certain
Robert.
amount of innate similarity I find between some of the actions taken by MRAs and taken by feminists, but then again, they're
Yeah.
the same actions that are visible in race activism, in environmental activism, and animal activism.
Yeah.
In general, activism today has taken on a very caustic form, and unfortunately, the MRM has not been able to sort of get over
Shed
that hump.
a bad
They're too scared.
reputation that's been forced on us by the feminists.
They're too scared. Imagine being labeled
No,
like.
we're not.
Hmm?
We're not.
No, I mean
I'm
like
an MRA.
the
Rob's
mainstream
an
media
MRA.
is way too scared.
So
They're like
many of the people
cowardly.
you know around you are MRAs. We're all honey badgers. No, yeah, like.
I'm kind of somewhere in between a feminist and an MRA. I have interests and agreements on both sides, and disinterests and disagreements on both sides. So, it's just like with me, everything seems to be right in the dead center.
I mean, it's like anti-censorship. That's the only reason I stand with them. It's just like, how can you kick somebody out like just because somebody tweeted something? That's like pitiful. That's weak. It's just like, oh my God, like the social justice warriors are getting mad, and it's like we know how trolly they are. We don't want them to attack us. Remember that lady that was on the plane? She was like about to land in Africa, and there was like already people like waiting with cameras. And there was a hashtag when she lands or whatever. That's the kind of people we're dealing with. They're the worst trolls on the internet.
Yes, but that's the kind of people we are as well. If we want to get a hashtag started, we will. I mean, we won't do it for those reasons. But
we're just doing what
if
they
we want
do.
to get a hashtag started, you'll get 70,000 tweets every time.
We're just doing like using their tactics. You know what I mean? They've
No,
always
but we're not using their tactics at all.
in that aspect, yeah. You've never seen.
We're not attacking people. We attack organizations.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why
for
it's
sure.
different.
Yeah, that's what makes it different. But those guys, it's just like
you admit
they're the
that.
worst trolls on the internet. You have to admit, like social
No,
justice.
we're not. We are not trolls. We are not trolls. I don't have to admit that at all.
I can be trollish sometimes, but I'm not a troll.
Gamegate are not the worst trolls on the internet. We are not trolls. We are a consumer movement that is pushing our message forward. We are no way trolls. Don't go out there saying that.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying social justice warriors are the worst trolls of the internet.
Oh,
They're the
Philly.
I
worst.
see. I
They're
can
like
agree with you on that.
they've been doing this like pre-Gamergate. They were always like, like, hey, let's dogpile this guy. Like you seen them like you
Well, a
see
lot
like
of them came from Helldump and something awful.
look what they did to Dawkins recently. That was just like despicable. You know what I mean?
William
It's just,
Shatner was the more entertaining of that situation. When they
sorry.
went after William Shatner.
Oh Jesus
Yes, they
Christ! Come
attacked
on.
William Shatner.
The guy's got like a university building named after him. The guy's like a philanthropist, man. It's just like he's made documentaries on his hometown. He comes from a poor Irish neighborhood. The guy pulled himself up by the boots. He's like he gave back. You know what I mean? And it's like
I'm 46. I'm an incredibly old man, and I watched Star Trek from its inception.
it's like Twitter. Twitter is cow to me. Like 8chan cow. Twitter is 8chan cow.
Yeah, but
It's,
we understand Chan Cow, and we also understand Baphomet. Like
yeah.
many of us are fuckers there. Like we're cunts.
If it's one thing I learned about the internet is if you don't want somebody to troll you, if you don't want somebody to dox you or post your information or do anything negative, just don't pay them any attention or don't roll with the punches, so to speak.
Twitter is way worse than Baphomet or cow by far. I've seen them
Become
like
your enemy.
on Twitter is like 1,000% harsher than Baphomet or cow.
Oh.
It's like I've seen them do nasty shit.
I'd rather
Twitter.
you didn't talk on this thing about like cow or bath. Yeah, because it's many
Get
of
your
us
attention.
hear from that, and we will come and fuck you if you talk about it. I'd rather you stopped, because we will come and get you.
I'm just saying, man.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
on
just
bath.
saying.
I'm on
I've seen
cow.
some nasty stuff
we,
on Twitter.
we will stick your pictures on there. I will come and dox you.
Amazing.
Fuck with me.
No, honestly, I hate Twitter.
Stop talking about them. Shut up. Shut up about Bath and Cow.
I've seen people like doing
Just
nasty
shut up
stuff
about
on
it.
Twitter. Really nasty business going on Twitter. Like people like doxing people on Twitter out in the open, and nobody says anything about it. But it's just like 8chan is like the worst place of the internet. It's like a hellhole, and they do this and they do that. It's just like look at Twitter, man. Twitter, it's just like. But that's what it is. It's all about like like I'm morally right now. I'm morally correct to do this on Twitter. But if you do it like an 8chan or 4chan, you're fucking troll.
The issue with Twitter is that it's not well designed at all for this kind of thing. It can really overload a person quite easily. I've had two experiences where I've been dogpiled essentially by a few people, and the threads were hard to follow. It was difficult to see what was going on, and honestly, it almost made me just completely up and quit Gamergate, especially after something like
faggot. You utter faggot. No, you are. No, all of you. Like, oh, I've been harassed by people. I feel a bit faggoty and I'm going to quit. Do you know how many times I've thought of doing that when I'm running Gamergate groups? Jesus Christ. You're going to get that.
If you quit, it makes it even worse.
I'll turn it all off and we'll turn Gamergate off tomorrow. Yeah, I'll ask Sargon not to bother posting about it again. I'll ask V not to post about it again.
What are you talking about? I have the Twitch and my
turn it all off tomorrow. If that's what you want, that was what will happen.
No.
That's what will happen.
That wasn't my point.
He doesn't know who I am. It's like
let's talk positive about it.
I followed you in from the Rationalists. I was like pretty much one of the first guys into your group, man. Like, don't get me wrong. I know, like, and
well, I love you too.
I've been around.
I love you too.
I love you, Piggy,
follow
and
me
everything, but I've been around since the beginning. I know a lot of things, but I'm just saying I'm criticizing Twitter right now. If
Yes.
the same rules
Yes.
apply, if the same rules apply, it's just like, who is the troll? Who are the trolls? Like
Well,
8chan,
well, there's an
Kotaku,
excellent post on 8chan
4chan,
about
or
how to
Twitter.
spot shills and how to spot shill posting, and you must read it. And I can put it in the chat here if you like now. Let me just go over to 8chan.
I just
And
want to make
just
people
to
aware, like left-wing trolls. That's
and
it. That's what
just
they are.
Just
Left-wing
to,
trolls.
and just to sort
well,
of
the
clarify what I
right
was
never
saying.
attack us, do they?
Well, they don't want to attack us.
They
Because they
don't.
can't come out. Facebook is a platform where they'd have to come out in the public. They'd have to make like like shill accounts and stuff like that, and like they can't come into the light. Like look at them, like Izzy, SRH. It's like, oh, you doxed me. It's like, no, that's just your name. You know what I mean? It's like everybody in Facebook. It's a public
I know
fucking.
what you mean.
Well, for
The
the
most.
longest time, I was using my name publicly in just about everything. I only recently had to change it because there was
I
a
will show you.
there was an email sent to my employer linking a picture of me and a couple of things that I had sent on Twitter and whatnot, and a little note saying that they needed to exterminate me. So if I wasn't worried about keeping my job, then I wouldn't care. But
Yeah.
since I'm saving up to buy a house and I can't afford to lose my job, I went ahead and changed my name on everything. But yeah, before that, I didn't care. I mean, my name, my general location, I don't care if anybody knows that.
We have a member that's a school teacher that has to have like a separate account.
Well, yeah, see, that's a different story. If you've got something to where, if you're a public figure or semi-public or work with a lot of people where your name is easily recognizable, that I could understand. But I'm just a peon, so doesn't
But
matter to me.
You're
like
not a
we're the
peon.
least anonymous
You're
group.
wonderful.
We're the
Hmm?
least
One of the
anonymous.
wonderful people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Show
probably
me
why.
your titties.
The
Show
only
me them
reason-
in the DM. Just privately message me your titties. Yeah.
The only reason why we're not like probably like 100,000.
See, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but my husband would, so you'd have to talk with him first.
Show me your husband's titties. I'm cool. I got no kid to
Equal
buy.
opportunity titties.
Get your husband to show me his titties. No, I bet they're hairy. Hairy.
Yeah.
Highlight. Oh my. Oh my goodness. No, you speak then, young lady. I'm no longer in trance.
What?
In
You crack me
trance.
up.
I'm no longer entranced. You can talk about what you want. My penis will stay flaccid.
Okay.
Okay.
You
We
crack
have
me
an agreement. That's excellent.
up.
The only reason like Ultras isn't like like 10,000 members is because of like the non-anon status.
The only reason, I would love to build the group bigger than it is, but it doesn't need to be.
Suck.
There's
I've
also a
got the
little
right
bit of
people in it. It doesn't need to be a lot bigger.
a lot there. I've seen a little bit of infighting recently, and that's bothered me. I mean, I was involved in a little bit of a argument earlier today about the anti-GG blocker, which you guys, I'm sure, discussed earlier. But
Yeah.
and then I was trying to have a civil discussion about it, and I admit I made a silly comment, and the person blocked me. It's like, well, okay.
I blame my admins. Look,
What are your
I
thoughts on
got
that?
blocked earlier this week, so I can't control my own group at the moment.
I don't think it's your
Absolute-
fault.
No, I'm not. It absolutely is. No, it absolutely is.
No,
I'm
it's just.
asking my admins to run this for me, and they can't do it like I can.
It was just the person I was speaking with earlier. I think he got a little overheated, if you know what I mean. And he was in the chat earlier. I wanted to speak with him, but I didn't want to cause any drama. I just wanted to say, hey, what's up? Why'd you block me?
Well,
Why don't we have a
bless
nice,
you for
mature discussion?
I bless
What?
you for your sense in that situation, and you've bought 1 million admin tokens right there in terms of future problems.
What are your thoughts on
Um,
that, Miss?
Well, I put it this way. I personally, and like I said in the thread, I personally wouldn't use it because I like to see two sides of the coin. I don't
Same
like
here. I like to
to
see you
block myself
slandering
off.
me. I like to see you slandering me. But what about the second one that like redirects you to archive it, so that way we don't have any infighting when somebody like posts a Kotaku article, and then
Hmm.
we're all clicking
well,
on
we
it and
don't
giving them
have
like
any infighting when that happens anyway. I won't have people press because they forget to archive.
Well, yeah, see, that's fine. If it just redirects to an archive, I'm cool with that. It's just blocking
I'm
it
not bothered.
altogether that kind of irks me.
we can't expect
I
everybody
just
to
want it
know.
not
Like, not
to.
everybody's been around for the full 8 months. We do have new members, and they
Right.
don't know that it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
hey, we shouldn't be going on that site because they're offensive to us. You know, they slander us. And
Rely on me to teach them that, please, because I'm in that position. And it's
8 months,
horrible when
nine
you
months.
pick on
Hasn't it
each
been
other,
9 months?
and
It's been like
it doesn't
9 months.
help the overall movement.
Yeah.
I'd rather
Infighting.
you let me suggest to people that they archive things than all the members of my group were like pestering people who forget to archive things, because I think that creates aggression that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
And then there's the fact that it's like these lists they're not updated, and we don't know who created them. So are we gonna do like Randy Harper Kentucky Fried Chicken sort of style, like that we're gonna like ban like maybe
Well,
somebody who's
why
like
don't you
changed their
find
amendment?
out before you make all these suppositions? Because it sounds like you're sitting there looking for problems.
I'm not. I'm not looking for
Well, you
solutions.
think about it. You think about it, mate.
I am thinking about it, Piggy.
Okay. You think about the overall movement and think
Hey,
about, well, should I sit here like making all these problems when
Piggy,
there are none?
Piggy,
Huh?
can Milo hold this liquor?
Are you calling me Piggy?
Yeah.
My name's Ian.
Can he hold his liquor? Milo. Is he able to drink like
I know Milo. I talked to him the other day when I met him in London.
how was he? Was he able to drink like more than like 4 drinks or
Taller than
what?
me by about a foot, and yes, he can drink. And no, he
Excellent.
doesn't drink. He tends to spend most of the night outside the pub, smoking cigarettes, talking to people.
Damn, he doesn't drink?
Are you so useful to Gamergate as we are?
Me?
Like, should I just disconnect from you and not worry about what you think? And
I
should we all disconnect?
I wasn't criticizing him or anything like
Well,
that.
then you have a think. No, you have a think. And you tell me how you feel
It was just
about all
like
of that.
I'm feeling pretty good,
Because
but
it
I'm just like
sounds
I was
like
just
you're fairly
curious.
antagonistic towards all of us. Yeah?
You find
So what
so?
side are you on, boy?
I'm on the right side of history.
Now, are you on our side or their
Of
side?
course. Of course I
You're on
am.
our side. Good. Good.
A little bit of an off topic, but I would totally grow a penis for Milo if I could.
He's a very handsome man. He's very tall and very good looking.
It's that hair. I can't get past that hair.
You
Well,
could
that's
always be on the
very
bottom.
You never
He's a
know. I
good
might be a
man.
switch.
It's like
Good,
you the deep
hard-working.
boys. Milo.
Hello, Milo.
Yeah, that's getting there. We're getting there.
How are you doing today?
Go look at my face. No.
Yes, darlings.
So we have a member in the chat that I have not heard yet.
Yeah, we're getting really. We could probably can fit one more member in here, and I believe Jeff is coming back. So
Bring
Okay, cool.
someone in who wants to talk. Because, like, we've got a load of people who are in here who are just marginally talking.
I think I'm talking a lot. I don't know if I'm making any
You are
sense.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
no complaints for you or a couple of our people. I'm talking over a lot of you, but we do need to like bring the audience in.
Well, I did send a tweet out with the stream, but I think it went through. I'll double check. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
A couple of
check
us want to
the.
talk, and so we could use some new voices that might replace them.
Yeah, I sent out a link to the stream on my Twitter.
Go.
I only have 940 followers, so see if any of them pays attention.
That's a nice chunk of followers.
Hmm.
I've
Mostly
only
from
got
the
1,400 or so. I'm
mine
afraid.
were mostly from the whole Op Skynet thing, so I think that was
Yeah.
most of my
I
followers
think
there.
I think that's where most of our followers come from. I know uh, I'm following 455 and only 292 are following me. So I mean, it's pretty
I
clear
built
that OP
about
Skynet
I
had
brought
a.
I brought about 5 grand of followers with me. Most of them left. I lost a lot of my followers playing with Gamergate.
Is Frozen around? Frozen Binary?
Oh yeah,
He's
Frozen.
probably not actually. He's probably still at work. But like,
Yeah.
we'll get him in here as soon as we can. Like Frozen Binary, like yeah, I'd love to have him in the chat.
Yeah, he's classic, man.
Yeah,
You guys mind if I step away
clever.
from the keyboard for a minute to go grab some dinner?
Oh, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be
I
back
should
in
run
2
away,
minutes.
I'm the nasty arsehole in this chat, and I should get out.
Nah, stick around, Piggy. It's gonna be sweet, man, when you're on. I love you, brother.
Yeah,
It's great.
I love you too, but I
So
am
tell us a story.
a story.
Yeah.
Well, my uncle died the other day.
My condolences. Sorry.
Actually,
old?
that's not a story, is it? That's just.
How old was he?
I don't know how old he was actually,
Was he
but
like
he
ancient?
died about 6 months after his wife. So
Damn.
no, that's quite good. I think they drank a lot. They ran pubs.
Nice.
Smoked a lot, like myself, and they hit about their 80s, and shit. It's all good. You know, they had life. They had some fun. You have your sex.
Did
Make
you ever
what you can.
did you ever go in this pub?
Pub. The pub got sold on many years ago.
Damn.
What's it called? It's down in the West Country between Portsmouth and I can't remember. I'm really drunk.
Did you ever go in there though when he owned it?
Oh well, many of our family parties were like held there. Why can't I remember it?
Damn straight. That's fucked up.
I'm really, really embarrassed. I can't remember it. Victoria, Victoria, Victorian in West Marble.
Hmm.
No, the I can't remember. It's awful, isn't it? Such shame.
So what do you guys think about Zenistrad rage quitting with Sargon?
Well,
I actually wanted to do a video on that.
That was
I will
pretty
take.
impressive.
Yeah, I'll stick with Sargon's views on it.
Of
And
course.
farewell, fair play, fair play. They they had great intellectual arguments together, and one won, one lost. I will treat them both with respect.
Hmm.
What I noticed about it though is
Sargon respects, I respect.
He rage quit, but without
No,
rage.
he didn't rage quit.
He
Just didn't
Zenistrad
beat
rage
Sargon.
quit without the rage. That was like he tried to exit disgracefully, but the door still hit him in the ass. You know what I mean? It was beautiful.
His parents stopped him from arguing. That's what happened. His mum and dad told him to stop getting in fights with people on the internet.
I have returned.
Dad did. Yeah.
Well, it was really interesting to me simply because it revealed, I think, so much character about the kind of people we're dealing with. You know, there's in the art of debate, there's sort of these two different mindsets where you can either view it as sort of a war or a sparring match, and rather than viewing it as sort of a sparring match as, you know, Sargon does, where Sargon can lose, Sargon can take criticism,
Mhm.
and Sargon is very good with allowing people to essentially still stand and even recognize some of their points. This Xenistrad figure wasn't really comfortable with that. In fact, when he felt that Sargon had
He was
essentially beat
entering
him,
into an honest debate. He retracted from it and ran away.
he
Yeah.
ran away because he felt that
So we agree he ran away.
Sargon won. Yeah.
Anybody
And
able to hear
we-
me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry for the background. Yeah, Sargon is no longer with the movement. Stay away from some of the things on Twitter. Tell me what happened.
Well, no, Sargon is still with the movement, but he had this discourse going with this male feminist named Xenistrad, and Xenistrad recently quit.
He's a
Then
Gazi
the
internet
was run
troll.
away. His parents told him to grow up and stop like hassling all these people on the
He
internet.
was a Reddit troll. That
Well,
was
who would be seen to
No,
be
he's
more
a YouTuber. Xenistrad's a YouTuber. Have you watched him?
I'm not much.
Xenistrad's videos against Sargon.
I love Sargon's videos. I love them, but not the I
No,
haven't seen
have
the
you
videos.
watched Xenistrad's anti-Sargon videos? That's
No.
what I mean.
No.
Remember when?
They are not stupid. He has some great points.
No. Anita
No,
Sarkeesian
he does.
fucking
No, he does.
blocked him, man, and
Troll.
like identified him as a troll. His own side identified him as a troll, and he got all like salty on in a response vid. You don't remember that? Anita Sarkeesian was just like, or
Right.
Josh McIntosh, or like, this guy's a troll. You know what I mean? He was just like, he had to go on YouTube and defend himself.
Well, it goes back to the whole, situation with the kids in the playground. One kid comes up and punches you in the arm, and you push him, and he goes and cries to his mommy. That's exactly what I'm saying there, too.
Amazing
And
stuff.
besides, Anita Sarkeesian or any of that ilk, like, deciding all of a sudden that a person is bad is usually a sign that they've done something right.
The Time
Xenistrad, I've
debacle.
got a lot of time for.
Time magazine. Isn't that incredible? I know we discussed this in our group and everything like that, but I'm just like, amazing, just belly aching about everything. It's just like, you fuck with Google, and like Google like puts up like that little clip where it's just like, everything's misogyny. It's misogyny. It's misogyny. That's like your search results that you get. I'm just like, that wasn't an accident. That was like the day after she tried to fuck with Google, like for like 5 days. Was that little video clip of her? Everything's misogyny. Everything's misogyny. That was just like, holy shit, man.
Explain
You don't fuck with the masters
Explain
of.
it better, my friend, because you're just repeating yourself.
Yeah.
Explain it better. What you're saying.
Like she came up and
Why
it's
is
just
this
like
illegal?
it's not illegal or anything like that. It's just like if you search Anita Sarkeesian, you used to get like a video and the news, and like on the sidebar you get like her Wikipedia.
Well, we
entry.
understand that. You're preaching to the converted.
Yeah, well, it's
But
like
Google doesn't care. Like,
no,
Let the other
Google
people
doesn't
talk.
give a shit. Google for the
Let
god
the
of-
other guys talk.
Yeah,
Shut up
well,
a bit.
if you don't mind,
Yeah,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
going to jump in and see if maybe I could clean up what he's saying. I get exactly I hear what he's saying. The thing is, I think what he's saying is they come with a pre-existing grudge and agenda they have in mind when they approach the situation. They're like one of these professional people that get hit by cars. Okay, they're con artists. they're locusts, and they're looking for
Yes.
their next mark. They're looking for their next host. Okay, so they're a parasite to any industry. These are not critics that are doing any constructive criticism. It's all destructive, infighting type criticism and denouncements and denunciations and character assassinations. So these are creatures that subsist on other people's labors and that are just getting involved in this gaming industry because it's vulnerable, basically. That's the only
Yes, the
reason that they're
industry is vulnerable to this kind of attack from
yeah.
social justice,
That's
like
the reason they're here.
warriors.
They police each other more than they try to police anything else. It's like it's
Well,
a big
this is
thing.
what we must convince them to do, and this is probably one of our best tactics against them, is to convince them to police themselves by their own rules.
It's like in the church when people would fight over who's holier than thou. You're going to get the who's more social justice than thou.
Who's the bigger victim?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Right.
The Victim Olympics, we need to encourage that in them.
Gotta put a
And they will
minority.
break themselves apart.
There's enough money that they can keep that game going for a while.
But the thing is, we've broken them so much that this is
Correct.
perfect territory for them to fight each other. They have seen that it has gone wrong, that their plan has gone wrong, and now is a perfect time for them to fight against each other and say, you made this go wrong. You made this go wrong. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense to me. Yeah, I mean, as if we do indeed get a couple of these sites to close, then that's something we should
Well,
celebrate.
we have on many occasions. We've robbed international companies of millions of dollars. This is nothing to Gamergate.
Well, if it is
That
robbery,
often
if
I
that's the way
think
it's
what you said
described,
to me
it's
today
some of the most
has
Robin
been
Hood-esque.
shallow and naive, and that you haven't understood just how powerful Gamergate is, and how dangerous it is to influence and try and push ideas onto Gamergate, which I don't try to do. Like we're saying, we should block all these people. That could fuck us up.
That
Do you understand that?
that doesn't really follow. No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
You're
Fair
mocking
enough.
me. You're mocking me by calling my name. Listen, this is
Yeah, I am.
I
I am in the second extent. Yeah, but I wasn't initially. Like
okay.
when you
Well,
didn't
it
listen to
seems
me,
like
yeah,
there's
I
still a
mocked
beef
you.
here. Yeah, it seems like there's still a beef here, and I don't see any reason for this to be personal, but I do see that it's
It's
not.
not.
Yeah, but I do see you kind of provoking me, and I don't really
I
appreciate
am
it.
now.
And what's your purpose in that?
I'm really drunk.
Let's try to keep this civil, guys.
Oh, okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry, mate. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, mate. You started on me earlier in the evening, and like
Yeah.
I'm really drunk now, and so like I've listened to you.
Mhm.
I've agreed with you. We are on. We are on a. We are on a. In professional terms, I totally agree with you. But
Mhm.
like I'm still gonna go Jeff because like
Okay,
fucking I
okay,
need a
okay.
laugh.
Right.
I'm
All right,
bold.
right.
I'm from HN. Like I just need a laugh. I'm sorry, mate. I'm
Mm.
just being
Hey,
a dick.
Jeff.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree with
Give
you. I
on.
love you.
Look,
Well,
I have no beef against you at all, and I apologize if I offended you earlier in the Facebook chat. I certainly didn't mean to offend. I just wanted to
No, nobody
discuss.
has.
well,
Nobody's offended me at all today. I
yeah.
hope you all go away feeling that you have been listened to, and and that you all are all worthwhile, and you're all wonderful members of Gamergate, and that like people elsewhere in Gamergate have listened to you and thought you were wonderful, because I do, and you've all been absolutely helpful. But chill out. You don't need to fight
Yes,
against your own
let there be
people.
peace. Let there be
Let
peace.
there be peace.
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
I'm saying.
I was.
Guys.
Yeah, I was concerned. I was concerned that we were going down the wrong track with squelching the discussion. So
I'm
when I
concerned you're going down the wrong track in Gamergate, because you've already told me that you've been banned from many libertarian groups, And I'd like you to relax a little when you deal with people in groups,
Well,
especially in mine.
well, think about it like this,
Li-
Ian. He has a valid point when it comes
Yeah,
to the
for
auto
one thing, I'm
blocker.
not.
Well,
I'm sorry,
no,
Yvonne. If I
no,
could rebut
because
that a little bit. Yeah,
okay,
the
Yeah.
the
Jeff,
thing,
you
I don't know.
attacked me very aggressively initially when I asked you to like calm your post, and you've continued to until we talked in this space, and I think we've come to a point where we're not like worried about each other. So let's leave it at that, shall we?
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
I'm generally agreeable to that. And what I wanted to say in addressing Yvonne is that what was said based on obviously some mutual misunderstandings. So
Hmm.
I'm not trying to, yeah, I'm not trying to attack anyone at all
I
either.
do love you,
And that
mate.
that was done. The thing is, I experience a lot of trolling and this sort of thing online, and I don't really devote a lot of time to responding to it. I tend to work it out rather quickly what somebody's motive is,
I hear
and
you.
then I prefer to block them. So I mean, it's a labor saving device, and it's the same thing I put with the other blocker. It's for me, it's the same thing.
I often
If we're
view it
hearing the
the
wrong
same way,
message,
but with people like you, I didn't want to use that. I
Well,
think you had a good point that absolutely, as we've
well,
explored now,
I wasn't trolling
needed
though.
exploring.
well, Jeff, it's all good. I mean, I know things can get a bit heated, and it's hard to express
My
exactly
name is
what you're
Jeff.
trying to convey over the internet using text as opposed to speaking in person or having discussions. So I understand if you still want to
Well,
keep me
Red, a
blocked.
few very basic
That's up to
questions.
you.
No, I plan on unblocking you. It's not something very serious where I would necessarily block people permanently. But I do that if I see a persistent pattern of just being either disingenuous or very, very stupid. I have to admit I block people
Okay.
for that as well. So
Well,
no,
I apologize for
that's
my
not
earlier
something I.
comments.
I'm incredibly disingenuous, but I'm worth knowing.
Well, if you're humorous about it and it's not
I'm the devil, you
to a
know.
detrimental,
I'm the
right?
devil,
If it's
you
not done to
know.
some very detrimental or malicious ends, then I can tolerate
I'm
that.
not someone you can ignore. I'm the
I
devil,
certainly
you
don't like
know.
doing anything malicious
Okay.
at all.
Yeah, you
Right.
can't get anywhere in Gamergate without me being somewhere in the mix.
Sure.
So
Sure.
you
Okay.
can't ignore me. You can't block me. You can't throw me away because I'm incredibly important. Some pigs, some animals are more important than others, and I
Well,
am.
I think they're actually more equal. I think is the way the
No,
heart
I
affairs
am
would go.
more important than the other equal animals.
I am more important.
I
We are
built.
all more important. We are all important in our own special way.
What if I was the leader of Gamergate and you just didn't know?
Wait,
What
I
if
thought
I
I
had
was the leader
always
of
been?
Gamergate. Hey now.
There is no leader of
It's not my
Gamergate.
movement.
My movement.
Yeah, no one ever told me. I thought like you were all following me. Okay, well,
Right.
who knows?
Mind blown.
Even Sargon bows down to me.
I find that unbelievable.
I made him famous, but it's true. No, it's a lie.
What is it like? Everybody in Britain's Guy
No,
Fawkes.
no, the point is, Gamergate is Gamergate, and it's full of really clever, wonderful people who have absolutely no
Have
fear
a
about
fucking
their own
brain.
abilities. And
I completely agree with you.
Well, right. Well, we don't have to promote necessarily with our whole being a diversity of viewpoints because we have our own viewpoints, which is something that's very nice to have when it's not just a popularly tuned message.
Gamergate's fine. Yeah, it is. Gamergate is fine. We're all doing very, very well, and we have massive amounts of digging, all sorts of good stuff. We cover every network. If you want to give something to Gamergate, bring something that is incredibly clever and good as an operation. And I think you are just bringing us worry about how we are progressing. And I don't think you need to. I think we're doing very, very well indeed.
I bring my wonderful, beautiful voice. Everybody loves my voice, so there you go. I bring something,
You have
right?
a nice. Your voice is like excellent. It's soothing. It's like I like digging. I enjoy the digs. The big digs. You know the big digs. Those are
Yeah,
amazing. You know when we're
big
Oh, that's
all
fun.
in on, when we're anonymous and like we're in there and we're digging. It's just like I got this, you got that. Isn't it glorious? It's just like
these
you
digs
know
are still
you're
going
part of
on.
a.
Why aren't you there?
I'm not there
I
right
like
now.
digging into UBM. I spend a lot of my week digging when I'm not admitting.
It's like
What
I dig a lot.
I'm
Most of the
digging
time,
into
that's all I
UBM
do.
British Media Awards.
Yeah,
My
it's like
babe.
I don't stream a lot because it's like
You're
I
not
don't really
digging
like it, but
anything, are you?
I'm drinking. If I'm not digging
Spending.
anything,
You're
no,
just drinking.
I'm just drinking now. But
Yeah.
it's like when there's a big dig, it is amazing though. Like it's impressive. Just like
When,
I
yeah,
got
but
this.
you're not the
Go
one
go
doing
go.
the digging, are you? It's people like me and my mate that do actually do the digging. And like you just take the credit, don't you? Wanker.
I don't take the credit for anything.
No, you
I
don't, do
never
you?
I never take the credit for anything.
Arsehole.
Nobody does. Nobody
I'm
takes
doing
the
the
credit.
fucking digging, you're
So,
banging on about it. I've never
You're
seen
digging
you
for
digging, you big
you're
fart.
you're digging for
You
truffle.
haven't digged once! You didn't dig once! What do you know? You
You're
don't know
digging for
shit.
truffles.
You are so
Bagger.
entertaining when you're drunk.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, he's
sorry, I'm
amazing.
being really rude to this man, but
I don't
he's
thought you're being
lying.
rude. You're just joshing and shit like that, but it's
You're
alright.
just
Don't worry.
lying to me, and I'm not putting up with it. Go away.
so Ian, you're active on the dig site?
Me? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I just like it. It's just like people set you on things and you go and you check it out and you just like, everybody double checks everything and it's just some text, like who said what to who and you just post it up, and it's like, hey, I got a
On
piece of
what
this.
site? What are you doing this on?
Well, dig.com, is this what we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, I see. Okay, yeah, no, I'm not familiar with the platform very much myself, but it's like a collaborative research sort of thing, right?
Yeah, collaborative research.
Guys, I'm going to catch you later. I've lost interest. I'm going away.
All right, have a good night.
Oh,
He
good night.
left.
Good night, Ian.
Good night, Peggy.
Yeah, does he have a big following on Dig?
No, I wasn't talking about Dig. I was just like, like when people are doing things on like Reddit or like Chan sites and stuff like that, and just things like that. It's
Right,
fun,
right. Are Reddit and Dig, do they both those sites do the same thing?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. You go on Kotaku in
Dig
Action,
and Dig and
8chan and stuff like that. Do you go there to do things like that, bro?
Well, no. I mean, I've done most of my sending manually. I don't know about the like with the option programs and stuff. I'm always a little bit suspicious of that. But I do go to the customer service websites, and I've submitted a number of complaints about the the advertising
Sending
campaigns.
emails, that's
But
good, man.
I mean,
Emails are what we
yeah, yeah,
need. What has been
right.
the result of recent digging?
Yeah, I'm not actually active on those sites, so I wouldn't even know.
Okay.
Last thing I was interested in was like the connection between uh the fucking Senate lady or what's her name and Alex Lifshitz pops stuff like that. It didn't come to fruition or anything like that, but people are like like oh yeah, it's just dad and this has nothing to do with them or whatever. It's just like Raytheon and all this shit like that. It was interesting to me, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, they got to be connected. They're all like, like these one percenters that all know each other, sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's like Raytheon gave her like 15,000, fourth biggest donor. Uh, you're like, okay, yeah. So he took her on a honeymoon to like fucking the Senate or whatever, and you're like, there's got to be something. People can't just like walk in there, you know?
Well, that was the interesting thing about the Senate hearing was that only people can't just buy out a trial room to make inane statements that would essentially waste everyone's time. Like,
It's not a waste of time for them because it's like, they have to get, like, what was it? Like the last election was like the biggest in history, like the most money spent over every other like campaign ever in
it
history.
increases every year.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
and these guys are all like little whores. It's like back in the day, like K Street would have to pay like like millions. Now it's just like, oh yeah, 5 grand, 5 grand. You hear them like complaining, like it's so corrupt. And then you're like, how did so Quinn get on there? It's like, okay, yeah, she's always around corruption, right? You know what I mean? So you're just like, okay, you just gotta like start digging, and it's just like it's so easy. Like, okay, yeah, his pops is like got this group, and it's like Raytheon gives her money. It's like, of course, they got no choice. You want your 15,000 next year or what? Like, uh, I
well,
think it's corruption.
was was the organization that Wu was tied to supporting any of the
Yeah.
people who ended up on the trial?
Well, like Gare Group is like they have like a bunch of like smaller companies, and it's like one of them that they control or whatever. It's like Raytheon, and Raytheon is like a donor on Catherine Clark's.
Okay. Okay,
So
so there's some positive links there at least.
yeah, but it's like everybody's like saying like like, oh, there's nothing there and all this stuff like that. It's like it's not him, it's his son and all this shit. I'm just like, I don't know.
When it
I
gets
think
to
it's I
that
think
level, it's confusing. Oh no, go ahead.
yeah, it seems like tinfoil hatty and everything like that. But I'm like, there is a connection, right? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't doubt that there's a connection. It's the need to prove the connection, and I'm not even sure how effective that is. I mean, most of the congressmen's budgets are locked down so that people can't generally see them.
No, it's all out in the open in the United States. It's like they have to like there's a donors list and everything like that. You can't just like give money. You could do it if you want to do it anonymously. You could do it by through PACs, and there's a limit on the
Oh,
amount
right,
of money that you
that's
can give as an individual.
Yeah, yeah, that's something
where
I was babbling about earlier. That was, that's part of the larger issue with free speech, and what is and is not permissible to be governed. Basically, like, is an individual contribution regulatable as free speech, or is it actually, on a monetary basis? Is it not free speech that an individual could contribute as much as they want?
That's
And
what
so,
a PAC. They got around it with PACs. It's like before it was just like I think it was like $200 before you have to
well,
declare it or something.
right. Initially, the PACs were allowed them to go around it, but subsequent court rulings have made it the caps basically moot now through a combination of cap and individual contributions. But for a while, we were, the individual members of the public were suppressed from voting with their dollars, if you will, for the campaigns. Of course, there are concerns that people are monopolizing on it, but I don't think that's necessarily. I think that money in politics is a symptom. I don't think it's the cause of the problem.
Hmm.
certainly not. Certainly, if you get right down to it, it's sort of like the Calgary event where it's not Gamergate just happened to bump into an existing problem there.
Right, right. We converged. Our defensive trend converged with this, this at this point standing trend of trying to suppress and reroute gamers to all of this, these political archetypes and everything, basically. So it's, but that's as a consequence of like what they're selling, also. So it's mutually reinforcing. In the case of like a cult or religion, then it's one thing is going to back up the other, therefore, and that's really what we're dealing with here. And they're the aggressors in that case, and we just have to have a more focused defense than they are effective at individually taking us down with their nonsense, really.
It's fun to find the connections, but it's like even when you find them, there's nothing you can do about it because if there was, they would use it against each other. You know what I mean? Like the Democrats and the Republicans would like use it against, hey,
They
look at
do.
this or look at that, and it's like to no effect. So if it has
Yeah.
no effect to them, like how is it gonna like affect our campaign? You know what I mean? But I'm just like, it's
Well,
nice
look
to
at
like point
the
out that they're all attached. They're like fucking around. You know?
look at the recent articles on Hillary Clinton, where they are essentially attacking. They are essentially trying to attack the right as they always have. Anyone who opposes Hillary is opposing all of womankind, apparently. The right tries to go after them. Oh, well, look at the old white misogynist over there. So it's very much still at play.
Well, guys, I'm headed out for the night. It was a pleasure talking with y'all, and I'll chat with you later.
Good
Nice
night.
talking.
Right, Devon.
Night.
But yeah, 2016, like I was saying, it's going to be a strange year for Gamergate, but especially if it continues into 2016 American Gamergaters.
Well, I think it. I don't see it. I don't see this stopping. I mean, I suggest it probably will. That eventually the movement will seek to organize at least into different groups focusing on different things, if not factions. Hopefully, not really factions. But I mean, I think it'd do better than even what we've been able to do so far, which is for a consumer movement. It's been really epic. I'm not downplaying it.
No.
I think we could achieve much more, focused results if we actually organize beforehand, and have involve a little bit of basic strategy and which companies and which sectors of the industry we're going to target. Do things that just make basic common organizational sense, really, more than the very ad hoc thing that we've done so far, which should not discontinue by any means, but I think it could be augmented by focus groups, more organized groups.
So diverse. When we're so diverse, it's like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna like, we can't even get like a decent like a game site going. We're so diverse. It's like, what are we gonna do? Like,
We're all
find a
genres.
political party? It's like, I don't want to vote for Hillary, but I don't want to vote for Rand Paul either. You know what I mean? I can't stand either of them. It's like
I'm voting for Jeb Bush.
amazing. It's like that's up to you, man. It's just like, vote for who you want for. That's what I'm saying. It's just like the politics. I'm just like, whoa, that's gonna like, when we get like political, it's gonna like that's what's gonna faction will be torn into factions.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true, but we have been attacked by a decidedly politically oriented and aligned movement, and to fail to acknowledge that is to fail to address in the strategic terms its due. That's
They're
ultimately
fucking brain dead. They'll vote for any woman that they put up there. It doesn't matter if it's Hillary or not. Like, everybody knows that
Right.
Hillary's a fuck up.
Right.
She's
We're
like
dealing with
horrible.
a dogmatism.
There's no alternative.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with it.
Well, there's very little alternative,
Yeah,
but
Jeb is not
there,
alternative.
there has been no alternative for years, which is the annoying thing. It's not even really Gamergate related. It's just there within the two-party system, there hasn't been good candidates on either side for years at this point. And so it's like, yeah, I don't like Jeb Bush either, but I'll take him over
Yeah.
libertarians or Hillary any day.
It's you have a choice between poo poo and caca. This is like
Yeah.
horrible. It's
I
like
don't really understand personally the opposition to libertarians. What's the deal there?
but you
My
have a candidate.
economically, I am very much anti-libertarian, especially I don't
Libertarian laws. Libertarian laws are fair.
But even if you did,
libertarian
you don't
laws.
have a candidate
Yes,
running.
yes. Sorry, yeah,
Okay,
libertarian
so you're
laws.
an economic determinist, basically.
I suppose I am if I remember if determinism is what, in that case, is what I think it is.
Yeah, it's something that could be measured exactly. You believe it's an exact science. Basically, it's materialistic. There's no free choice as like independent agency isn't the principal issue. It's more of a resource or it's basically like a calculatable problem.
Well, no, well, it's a bit more. It's a bit more complicated than that. But in a sense, my complaint is that the perfect, almost utopian vision of a capitalism that's free from corruption and easily correctable by consumer advocacy in a complete sense is absurd. Yes,
I agree with you about that. Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
I
yes,
consider myself
capital.
something.
Oh, go ahead.
I consider myself something of a socialist, but I'm more of a consumer advocate than like a you know like labor advocate or um, more like theory oriented. I'm very practical in the sense that I think there should be like basic social welfare or an alternative social safety net and things of that nature. So I mean I can understand that seeing that in industry things are not they don't tend to self-correct, but I'm very leery of regulation to resolve those kinds of deficiencies because very often they're purchased by the very interests that supposedly impartial government regulatory bodies are supposed to be governed by.
Yeah, you just
And
got to get
that's
money out of politics. That's all.
and
You
that's
get
why I
But
don't
but the
like
but the
the
money can
one
only
vote,
buy what's already
$1.
there.
One
and that's why
vote,
I don't
$1.
like the kind of regulation that necessarily has been pushed as of late. Because the way I see regulation, it's philosophically, anyways, it's meant to cull the bad behavior of those who would otherwise take advantage of a quote unquote free market and destroy that. So, like, I don't see any fault in the government breaking up trusts, for example, because that isn't promotion of a market, that's promotion of a monopoly.
Sure, I agree with you about antitrust.
Family
Actually,
business.
I agree with much less. I just believe like the intense environmental reviews and the other things that go along with the modern regulatory regime are more or less they're designed to keep out competition. They're designed to they're designed to stifle innovation. That they're not there to encourage it.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, it's certainly
Yeah,
meant
like
to.
innovation, you need like a credit system. You know what I mean? It's just like you need like anybody who's going to be an innovator. It's like, okay, yeah, you get out of school or whatever, you have an idea, you need like funding, right? It's just like you're not going to go on Kickstarter
Exactly.
and do mashed potatoes. It's like
Exactly.
the bank's not going to lend you any money. The bank's only going to like like you're a risk. It's just like you're not a like they're gonna what is it like the original shill? You're a shill. You're a sucker. Like I'll only lend money to suckers because I know I'm gonna get my money back. Innovation here is killed. It's like in a socialist state like say like China. It's just like those guys like they promote innovation. They're actually like where we were like back in the day. It's like in China you have an idea, they'll fund you, but it's like the government's going to take a cut. It's socialism. But here it's just like, who's going to lend you money? Nobody's going to lend you money unless you're buying a fucking house or something like that. Because that
Right.
now you're like a
Right.
fucking pawn. I own you. That's what they want. They want you to like get a fucking job, steady job. Now you're steady. Now I'll lend you money, but only to buy a house and nothing else. If you want to buy like equipment or anything to start your business, you're a risk. You're risky. You're no good to
Exactly.
creditors. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like that's what's wrong right now. It's just like this fucking. We're still stuck in like 2008. It's like unless you're buying like land, fuck it, because that's how everybody here made money. It's just like buy land and buy it fast. It's like it's bullshit, man. It's just like if you have an idea, go fuck yourself. The bank's never gonna lend you money because they don't even understand. They don't even want to understand what you're doing. That's why we have like Kickstarter now and shit like that. It's like it's crazy. It's fucked up. Crowdfunding. If you want like to get money to for a startup, Kickstarter. Just like whatever.
Well, or I mean, you could even go through, PayPal and do direct payments,
Yeah, but
which,
Kickstarter even
They won't lend you money if you're starting up a small
I
business.
mean, even Kickstarter endorsed Sarkeesian.
Right. I mean, and crowdfunding is in itself a profit motive. That's what people need to understand. The banks are a profit motive. The
What they need
crowdsourcing,
to is take advantage of something that could have been a good system. You know, like
yeah, and
when somebody goes on Steam and they're like promoting their shitty game, that's like, you know, and like, oh yeah, it's DLC or whatever. Same kind of shit, man. It's just like it's risky business, you know. And it's
that's
like
the name of capitalism.
we gotta weed out the cheaters. There's a bunch of cheaters on these platforms, and they're gonna discredit it, and nobody will get anything. You know, how like Anita Sarkeesian should be punished to
Yes.
keep up the credibility of what Kickstarter was supposed to be. But Kickstarter's like tweeting out that it's like, oh yeah, I support Titan Magazine's choice or whatever they're doing. I don't understand it. I'm like,
Yeah, they're
you
sucking
get
up.
you get out of just say you went to school for 4 years. You're like an engineer, a
Gets
mechanical
how much
engineer.
money from Sarkeesian through all that donation? They love Anita Sarkeesian because they get
They
so
get a
much out of
cut.
Sarkeesian.
They get a cut. They're like a banker. They're getting a cut. It's like, what's the interest rate on a loan if you go to the bank for a house? It's like Kickstarter. What do they get? It's like I'm pretty sure it's like equal or above. You know,
I
I
think it
don't
was
even
like
know. I'm just
10% or something
guessing.
like that.
Yeah, it's something sick. So it's like they don't care. They're just like money lenders, man. It's just like, you know, they could go fuck themselves. It's like it wasn't in the spirit of what it was supposed to be. It was like crowdfunding to get around the economic crisis. It's just like I went to school for like 4 years. I have an idea, and the banks don't want to lend me money. They want to lend money to deadbeats because it's like they want to like turn everybody into a peon. And it's like now, okay, yeah, I could get it crowdfunded. It's like these guys are just like milking it, just like everybody else. Like, who's worse, Anita Sarkeesian or Kickstarter? Who's in the wrong? Both of them, you know, or who's worse? It's like
Right.
it's just sick,
Right.
man. Like our
And
system
I
is
do
like
think it's an unfortunate tendency of capitalism that these kinds of cross endorsements that may be, based on an unethical party that happens to be accumulating capital. That's kind of an inevitable feature. But I do agree that's something that probably could reasonably be suppressed in the public interest based on the fact that it's basically like political profiteering. Um, I don't know if that's something that should be strictly regulated, but certainly when it's when it's co-opting an industry basically in service of that, that's something that ought to be looked at and blocked if possible.
you should fucking like subject these guys to the same rules that everybody else would be subjected to. It's like, are you getting revenue off of Kickstarter? It's like, pay your fucking taxes, man. That's
Right,
about it.
right,
Right.
exactly,
It needs a lot
exactly.
more regulation, is what it needs. The entire crowdfunding scene needs more regulation because exactly like what happened when big business came and they had to eventually start culling trusts and um, you know these sorts of laissez-faire business practices that actually hurt the free market rather than helped the free market.
I'm gonna take a piss, but when I get back, I'm gonna ask you guys about capital gains. What do you think? What are your thoughts on capital gains? I'll be back in like 40 seconds.
Okay.
That's quick.
Yeah, I've set some pretty good records myself. Um, yeah, so I don't know if I you're we were discussing before we got into the like the events and sort of thing. We were talking more about I actually cut out towards the end of like the not really a bot, the extension discussion. But what were you guys saying just about 30 minutes back? Because I didn't catch it.
The um, oh crap, what I don't think much is added to the conversation. I think uh, yeah, it kind
Okay,
of
I
got
wasn't
off the
sure if I
subject
missed
really
anything there.
quickly. Yeah, you didn't miss anything on that front.
Okay, okay, that's fine. All right, I guess we have some questions maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who is Access you back?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead then if you have questions.
No, no, no. I'll let you guys. I was just like capital gains tax. Do you think
Yeah.
that's like fair? Taxing the rich?
Yes,
It is.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it should
But
be kept at a reasonable level, but yeah, I think that's a good
it's
idea.
not taxing the rich. It's taxing the children of the rich, the lazy fucking bastards like Alex Lipschitz and shit that's running around like blowing his daddy's money and shit like for his own causes and stuff like and not doing anything productive for society. Tax these fuckers, man. It's like you didn't build that. That's like that Obama speech or whatever. They
Yeah.
didn't. I'm against it, but I'm for it because like they didn't build anything. It's like your father was rich, and now you're gonna have this trust fund that's gonna be like milking everybody. It's like tax these fuckers. Tax
Right.
It
the
Well, I
shit
think
out
it
of
depends.
them.
should. I think it should have a minimum threshold, so you shouldn't like if somebody's inheriting, under 100 or 200, maybe a quarter of a million, something like that. Then probably that's not really a tax we need to impose on them. But above a certain threshold, we definitely need to have that
That's
type
it.
of tax to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should pay taxes, man. They're not like producing anything. They're just like like they milked the land dry, sort of thing. They made money back when it was easy, and now it's just like they get away like on a free pass for like generations. It's like that's why we're always gonna have like a royalty, like all these guys like coming around. It's like they feel guilty about it. Like like Lipschitz is guilty. He's just like, oh my
Who
dad
is
sells
Lipschitz?
weapons.
Though honestly, if they wanted to do anything, they could just go after the people who merely invest, because the one kind of people who don't really produce a tangible service are the people who simply hawk investments and, buy
Yeah.
out patents and sue for that. And
Yes. Yes.
these, if you aren't producing tangible labor, it's, you really should be paying more taxes because you aren't doing anything but funding, your own investment banks.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. Right. Well, I have no particular disdain for the quality of idleness or the pursuit of leisure, but I do take it as against the public
No.
interest when you
We're
are both.
talking about this class war stuff now, right? Like
You know,
now it's a class war.
well,
It's not.
well, we
It's not a
absolutely
class
are.
war.
Right. Well, we absolutely are, but I'm saying we should look at it as in a whole sense, not just that there are idle rich, there are also idle poor. It's a matter
Yes.
of we should offer welfare to across the board, but there need to be caps for that, and there also need to be basically caps where if you go above it like a draw, then you're going to you're going to incur a greater tax from that. So I mean that's a progressive system of taxation. I think if there's a minimum threshold for income, like a national citizen stipend, like a yearly annual citizen stipend, just to allow everyone to pay their basic expenses, living expenses, room and
Me,
board,
I'm
and
like I'm not into that system. I'm just like welfare should only be for women, not for men. Just like fuck that noise. Unless like
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
remarkably
fuck them.
one-sided.
Let them have it. Let them have it. It's just like you bitches could like shut the fuck up and collect money, and it's like man, you go to work. That's
Well,
it. It's
most
like
well most men
Are,
also.
are you are you affiliated with Gamergate Access?
or me if I'm what?
Are you affiliated with Gamergate? Are you affiliated with
Yeah,
Lambda?
I'm invested in it like mentally and physically. I love it. You know what I mean? It's just like
Right,
it's great, but
right.
not.
So you're serious about that? Only women should receive welfare. You don't think it should be both genders?
No, I don't think men should receive it like on the same scale that I would give it to women. If I like, I would be just like, you could have it. Like
And
there you
why is
go.
that? I
Shut the
mean,
fuck up.
what's your right? Well, that's more like a personal kind of preference, the way you're saying it. So I'm wondering, is this something that has to do with like a belief in roles for men and women that are proper, and that violates the role for men to collect welfare, or is it something more like you just don't think that men on utilitarian basis need any kind of public assistance, whereas a woman might? Is
Men
it
should
like utilitarian or traditional?
men should work and women they should work too. But it's just like when they're not working, it's just like they shouldn't like bitch and like complain about the patriarchy or whatever they do. Like
Uh-huh.
Well, that would be an unfair
Well,
system.
right. Well,
If everyone who complained were the only people who got welfare, that would be like, fuck. I'd become a social justice warrior then.
You would like stop working?
Well, yeah, like if if the only way to get if the only way to get subsistence was to start complaining a bunch,
Would you
I'd complain a bunch.
to get free money? But not
everyone
like
would.
build it or like build something or like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I guess
Why
I'm
should
an
we?
old
Why should
fart.
we
I'm an old
insist?
fart.
Yeah, well, why should welfare even then be tied to labor? What is the social justice in that, particularly when we know what the labor market can be like, and like the outsource could be facing, people here. How can you really justify tying it to labor even? So
Well,
why should it just be one gender?
I was just like, okay, like women cheat, men cheat, right, or whatever. You have like a bunch of kids with a woman. It's just like she divorces you, and it's just like you got to take your capital to like cover her cost of living or whatever like that, and
Correct.
all this. But I'd be more like, okay, let the state take care of her, and I could like continue on with my plans, sort of thing.
Oh,
Let
I
the
think
state
that
take
should
care
be
of women,
socialized for
and
everybody.
like men could like continue on. But then I was just like, I just realized like, oh yeah, it's true. Some men prefer like maybe not to work or do things or build things
or
or.
to even raise the children if they want to. I mean, it doesn't have to be all one-sided. Certainly not reinforcing traditional, role models. I mean, if you're gonna do that, that's officially like a conservative subsidy program. I'm not in favor of that. I believe in a progressive social approach by government. So I don't think that that's something that should be limited by official subsidy.
But they seem to want the state to take care of them, so let the state take care of them. And it's like,
Exactly, exactly. But that should be available for all citizens that want it. Some will prefer to work, and there are jobs that will be available. But I don't see the value. I see a lot of, in fact, negative value or undermining of the economy being promoted in really
I
having a
see it.
social
It's just
safety
like
net.
that's a personal bias on my part. I'm just like, pay him off and like let me do what I want to do. You know what I mean? Uh,
Uh-huh.
Well, see, it's to me that's like rewarding bad behavior.
Exactly.
Like I don't like in truth, the welfare it to me is something that's temporary. It's you're having a problem, you can't get a solid job, you can't because you don't have training, let's say. So you go to the government and then say, "Hey, I need subsistence so I can go to school and become a dentist." And if you can prove that you can become a dentist, then sure, go ahead and give that funds until that person becomes a dentist, starts working, and starts contributing positively. The When the system goes bad is when people just stop trying to improve themselves, stop trying to become active members of society,
yeah,
and
they're
just
like, yeah,
live
you want to
off
become part of
off.
the patriarchy or some shit like that. It's just like, no, there's like we have
Yeah,
goals and we have to attain them.
these SJWs do nothing
No, they don't.
to
They
help.
like
Well, they produce a lot of rhetoric and they take a lot of resources, so they rob people. They rob them with their con jobs. That is their job, and they're very good professionals at it. I think it's despicable. It's the most unethical type of behavior that you could expect out of any major person, any prominent personality in any major industry. But that's what they're doing, and that's their job. So, I mean, you've got to respect them in that sense that they're professional crooks and con artists, or just attention seekers. Because some
Oh,
of
I
our
respect them. I respect them in that
they
aspect,
have
but
something to like even these youngins on like Tumblr. They have something to aspire to now. It's just like, yeah, like
Right, right. Well, we've got to get rid of the professional destroyers. If we can get rid of the professional dividers and destroyers in society, like these people are the professional parasites, we can actually work towards having more of a progressive and even social system that wouldn't require top-down totalitarian management, but by basic incentives like a citizen stipend or national reverse income tax, where people up to a certain threshold will receive an income, and beyond that threshold, they're taxed on it. That would actually make everyone prosperous enough that there wouldn't be any more of this. Oh, he was poor. He was defeated by the economic
You
system.
can't do it
It
on your
allows
own.
people.
You're always gonna need like a crew of employees, like even a gangster. So it's like your hitman, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like you're gonna have to pay them too. That's how it works. It's like just say I'm making like a million. I'm gonna have to like spend like what, like 60% of it on my employees or something. It's just like they don't get it. They don't get this the way the system works. It's like, well, yeah,
Well,
I
and
made
the system
$1 million by myself. Like come on. You
and
had
the
like,
system doesn't really work. I mean, take the example of fast food workers, for example. The plight of the fast food worker is actually a very meaningful one. It's the idea that they have families to feed, and because the job just happened to get filled by someone who wasn't a teenager on summer break, there has, or like a college student, that there suddenly a job with a salary that is untenable has gone to someone with a low amount of work. So some people suggest, something like minimum wage increases. That's the traditional thing to do.
fifteen
But
dollars like in Seattle. I'm all for
but
that.
that's
It's
yeah,
good.
but to me that's an I'd
It's a
rather
band-aid.
that
It's a
I'd rather
band-aid
that
approach.
Nothing
yeah,
to aspire to,
I'd
right?
Right.
rather
Well, if,
that
if
McDonald's
everyone
hand
has a
out
basic
scholarships.
Right. Well, if everyone has a basic income, we're talking just enough, basically, in any region. It might have to be regionally adjusted, in order, because there's disparities in terms of cost of living everywhere. But if that was done, and you have a cost-adjusted basic social income for everyone in the
Raise the
country,
minimum wage to like
but
today.
but not everyone works. Why make the employer the gatekeeper? Get rid of the employer as the gatekeeper. Give everyone the basics to live on, and the incentive to do more will be, well, do you want to have any luxuries? Do you want to be able to purchase wantful things, not just
That
needful
would be the
things?
incentive.
Right, right, and that's
Luxuries.
that's the best way to do it. Right now, we have a system
Mm.
that incentivizes basically a race to the bottom, where everyone is just trying to maintain. They're trying to get to the next month. With a guaranteed minimum income that will cover, the median income for like a given area. That lets people have a
We're
certain
just greedy
stability.
bastards. Like somebody's gonna have to exceed, and there's gonna be graft and
Well, and there's always
Well,
going to
that
be
I'm not suggesting that they should be limited by the income. I'm saying let's have everyone start at that, and if they're very successful, they pay some of it back. That's the whole point of like a draw or reverse income tax. Everyone gets income up to a certain point, but if you make an exceptional amount back, if you make an exceptional amount of profit in your personal life, then pay a certain higher percentage back if it's going to be a huge amount of income. That's I think very reasonable, and that also reduces the negative externalities of people being fired for lack of corporate income and all of that. It makes sure that our labor
what do
market
you
is
guys
dynamically allocated.
what do you think about like free education? I think I'm against it because it's like everybody gets like a degree, right?
Not necessarily. I think that's
not
part of the
necessarily.
problem with the for-profit education system. I think that's made perverse incentives in the private education market, so that we've had to have colleges basically selling degrees, and it's really watered down the standards. I also dislike the federal funding of a lot of state schools. I think that's caused been another avenue for this type of mischief, basically the social justice warrior style mischief.
Or don't you have to have like somebody that excels? Oh yeah. So yeah, I what I said, I'm
Well,
an idiot. I'm an
someone
asshole. I'm an asshole. Sorry, I take that right back. I take what I said back. Like you don't have to pay for an education, but it's like we have to have some sort of system where the people that excel, like if you could prove that you could be a leader, not everybody can lead. It's like if you can't lead, you're gonna try and drag people down to your level out of like malice. You know what I mean? Like
Right, as
social
of
justice
envy.
warriors.
Out of envy, that's what it really is. Their
Mm.
whole thing is based on an incredible envy of actual producers and actual participants. Like, I don't even think a lot of these so-called, the critics and whatever, most of them have admitted either they enjoy developing more or they enjoy commenting more. A lot of them don't even enjoy playing. Like Hamburger Hepler, she wants to skip the action scenes and just listen to the
Looking for
dialogue
something
in
to
the
complain
games.
about.
Right. They're
Beautiful.
just there to latch on to something. It has nothing to do with with a passion for gaming. They don't really want to be part of the community. They want to lord over it and exploit it. That's
Shitty
their
it
sole
up.
purpose.
Hey, I'm glad I met you guys, man. That's pretty fucking classic, you know. It's like
Oh yeah.
hard times, man. I just like when I was a kid, I used to get into trouble and shit, and there's like I got into like bad trouble and like I worked it out, and like now it's just like, hey, I'm self-sufficient. Isn't that what you're supposed to like aspire to? Just like to the point where like nobody could fuck with you. You know what I mean? And
Well,
just the fact of
self-sufficiency is the
having
goal, but self-sufficiency, as usual, is not always attainable, which
Well,
well,
is
not a purely capitalist economic system.
yeah, but we have to like you know, we have to set it up that it's just like people that do, we could help them, but people that don't, you know, fuck them. And that's where maybe I'm like a libertarian. Is that what we do? It's just like if you opt out like 100% or something.
Yeah, that's more or less. I'm more or less that way. See, I'm both libertarian and socialist. I mean, I have other political characteristics, but I basically believe that there should be that safety net. It should exist, but it should be on an opt-out basis. So if you want to be, a rugged individualist and whatnot, you can pay some kind of basic alternative tax just for, living in society, if that's what you want to do. But you could opt out of all the programs, all the other taxes, the FISA, the Social Security, but you will be expected to live independently. There would be certain exclusions or there would be restrictions if you later decided to join. So there has to be some rules to it. But
right.
I think that really you should be able to opt out because there'll always be a discontent minority or an underserved community within a social service system. It's
I see.
impossible. So you should have an out, but I don't think it should be the dominant thing. I think it should be kept very reasonable, and incentives can be applied to keep people in the system. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of not allowing an exception ultimately, other than renouncing your citizenship, for example, and moving abroad, that I find unnecessarily onerous and basically against our national interest in the winter.
I'm a libertarian at heart, I guess. It's like I live in a country where it's just like I have to opt in to like pay for Medicare. I refuse. I don't pay my taxes or anything like that. And when I go to the doctor, I pay it out of pocket because I know that it's just like I'll probably only be sick like 3 times in my life. And when I do, I go and I pay for it. If I paid for like a socialized medicine like they do here, I'd be way less money than I actually have now. So I like your system and everything like that, but I'm just saying it's like there does have to be a safety net for like people that are like everybody would opt out because it's so sweet. You know what I mean? It's just like everybody would opt out, and then we'd have to like
Well,
change the rules
Well,
or whatever.
not if we change the system so that it is basically an opt-in, but it's a self-declared opt-in rather than something that you're more or less required to get. If it's sufficiently enticing and there are again restrictions on exit, I don't see any reason why a lot of people wouldn't choose to stay with it. But as it stands, it's like compelled consumerism, and there's no social backing. There's no minimum income. There's no subsidies. It's all requirements. Like it's all like a punitive, like a tax. And that type of socialism has been shown not to work. I mean, that was part of the Soviet system. So that's not something we want to. We don't want to impose more burdens on people without offering some kind of commensurate or some kind of offset in the way of subsidy on the individual level.
Yeah, I don't pay for anything, man. I'm just like I'm on my own. Go fuck yourself. It's just like when I get sick, I go to the doctor and I pay for it. And I have to realize and accept it that it's like at one point I'm gonna get like something that's gonna do me in, like a heart attack or whatever. It's like whatever. That's the end of me. You just have to accept it. Uh, I'm not gonna be able to prolong my life or whatever. This is the way it goes.
We all have different life strategies, but again, there should be an organized system if you want in that would let you try and seek any of those things. I mean, not necessarily to live forever, but live for twice as long or whatever it is.
That's cool. That's cool. Good talking to you guys.
No, likewise.
Oh
So
yeah, likewise.
I probably it's 11 o'clock. I don't know if you guys want to keep up or should we call it a
This
night?
is actually we're we're at a pretty good stopping point. We started talking about politics, so this
Yeah,
is a
sure.
pretty
No, we
good
could.
start.
Hey, thanks
Yeah,
for
we can
modding
go around a
Ultras,
bit.
Stoll.
Oh, no
Yes. No,
problem.
yeah, it's been great talking. So thanks
I'm
for inviting us.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that we got. So, um, thank you for all who are still watching and all who have watched. Thank you to all the ultras who showed up, and that's one thing that we've worked through well.
Quiet,
So
diverse group.
I will be. I'm not sure how many. I'm not sure when the next one of these ultras events are. Um, Hopefully soon, however, I'll be able to figure out some system for the normal set of podcasts. But you can certainly look forward to more videos later in the week. Thank you very much and have a nice night.
Right.